Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would everyone please stand and join us for the flag salute? Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'd like to report out on our closed session. Item B2A was conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, government code section 54956.9B, number of cases 1. Information was exchanged, no action was taken. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion?
I move we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of September 12th, 2017, and the minutes of regular meeting of September 26th, 2017.
Second that. I second that.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, move on to item B4, approval of the agenda and consent agenda.
So moved.
I second that.
Any discussion?
I just have a few things to pull.
Okay.
C1, conference requests.
Uh-huh.
C2, field trip request.
D2, you said?
C2.
Oh, C2.
C7, public entity resolution. C8, school facilities consultant. And that's all. Oh, I'm sorry, and C9. Yep.
Okay. I guess we'll put C1 and 2 in personnel, Jolene? Or
No.
actually no, in
Conference requests could be under educational services.
okay.
And then field trip would be the same, educational services.
All right.
The others in business operations.
Okay. All right. Okay. This is a roll call.
Rogelio,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Andy,
Aye.
and I'm I.
Okay. All right. Just in the nick of time. We got Anna here. Hi.
Hi, Anna.
Welcome.
Hello.
You got your timing down perfectly.
You're on.
You're up. Yeah, you're up.
Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes, okay. Hi, I'm Anna, the student representative. The news for this week would be on September 27th, 30 students attended the Lila Downs concert, which was sponsored by UCSB. It was amazing. I saw some board members there. It was good. And then on Thursday, September 28th, we hosted the Boignois, sponsored by UCSB Arts. It was like a group, like a musical Latin American group. It was really fun. And then in January, we will actually be hosting another theater company from New York, and they will be working with the AP Lit students, the music students that are in competition or something like that. And it will be a part because the William Shakespeare play will be going on during that time, so it will help them get a little bit of experience. And then Carpenter High School is actually in a celebration right now. We're having Spirit Week, so I'm like dressed in Hawaiian outfit. And yesterday was actually comfy cozy, so they dressed in pajamas. Today is Hawaiian. Then tomorrow will be Western Day. On Thursday will be class colors day, and staff will also dress in a color. And then Friday is a Warrior Spirit Day, which will actually, on Friday we will have a parade during 7th period. And the band will be playing, and we will march around during 7th period to get us excited for the game. And then our rally will actually be on a Thursday that day instead, and we will have a big rally for homecoming with the homecoming courts presented and all the students participating. And then on Saturday of this week also, we'll have the big homecoming dance. And that's what it's going to end in. From all the spirit we had all week, we hope to get enough people to buy tickets this year, a lot more than we did in the past. And then tomorrow, October 11th, the 10th, also they will be taking the PSAT in the big gym that we have at gymnasium. It starts at 7:30. Yeah, and that's what I have for you today. Thank you.
All right.
Great, thank
Thanks,
you.
Anna. Okay, move on to D2, recognitions. Diana.
Thank you. I have a number of recognitions tonight, and I'll begin with Carpinteria High School. Principal Corneo would like to recognize Helen Methman, who's the Athletics and ASB Secretary. She is definitely a team player and is the first staff member that many of our scholar athletes and parents meet at CHS. Her positive attitude and support of our students, teachers, and parents and coaches make our athletics and ASB programs run smoothly. She embodies the true warrior spirit, always providing positive feedback, problem solving, and above all, she's student-centered. Thank you, Helen. And then on behalf of Rincon and Foothill, Principal Gloger would like to recognize Rincon counselor Marlo Stoops for all that she does for the students and staff. Not only does she serve students at Rincon and Foothill by providing excellent academic, college, and career guidance, but she has listened, guided, and supported students through many of their challenges. And even former students visit Rincon and stay in touch with her because of her positive impact she's had on so many students' lives. While English, math, and other academic areas are the cornerstone of our work, students learn best when they feel safe, cared for, and are socially and emotionally supported. Every day at Rincon and Foothill, Marlo provides this support for our students, and as a result, they're able to reach their goals. Thank you, Marlo. And then on behalf of the middle school, Principal Briggs would like to recognize and applaud the efforts of daytime custodian Eric Queller and nighttime custodian John Lyons. They have worked tirelessly to keep the school looking great, fixing things on a moment's notice, and they're just amazing gentlemen to work with. And I'd like to note that the floors of the middle school shine like you cannot believe. So thank you to both of them. Canalino and the Carpinteria Family School, on behalf of Principal Pursoon, she would like to recognize school psychologist Jacqueline Canold for her outstanding services to students and staff. She's an expert in special education, behavior, and assessing and meeting student needs. She has led the reading intervention team in formalizing a process for assessment and instruction based on that assessment. She is a gem in the school district, and we are fortunate that she chooses to share her talents with us. In addition, Principal Pursoon would like to also recognize custodian Peter Ramos. Peter keeps the campus functioning smoothly and ensures that facilities are clean and safe. He will see an issue before anyone else does, and he takes care of it himself. Most importantly, Peter has fabulous rapport with over 600 students on the campus, knows many by name and what teams they root for, and when to check in when a student is having a tough day. So he is a campus hero on the Canalino campus. And then Principal Fox is here tonight, and she'd like to recognize a special staff member at Aliso, second grade teacher, Summer Tarantino. Mrs. Tarantino has many skills that make her an outstanding teacher. One such characteristic is her ability to provide a nurturing and safe environment. She has a remarkable skill of making her students feel loved. The warmth and caring and patience she extends to the Aliso students provides them with the foundation which to take risks, explore, and to grow. She's a valued member of the Aliso team, and we thank her for all that she does to support our students. And then, on behalf of Principal Fox, she'd like to recognize Martine Satillin, custodian at Summerlin Elementary. It is evident that Martine takes pride in his work. He's a hardworking member of the Summerlin team and has a friendly and warm personality. He's always accommodating, ready to jump in to help with urgent needs and special projects. He is careful and thorough in performing all kinds of cleaning and maintenance tasks around the school. And because of his hard work, Summerlin School is clean and looks well cared for. It's never looked better. And we thank him for all of his hard work. Thank you.
Thanks, Diana. All right, we'll move on to item D3, and we have Principal Fox here to give us a presentation on the STEAM program at Aliso.
Good evening. I have Brett Weiberg here with me also, and then Laura Manriquez. So I'm going to start the presentation, and then Laura will, I'm going to kind of give you the framework of what we're doing, and then Laura's going to talk to you about what she's seeing in the Exploration Lab and our STEAM program, and then Brett's going to follow it up with some other details of what we've been doing and how we've gotten there. Okay. So for a while at Aliso, we have been providing our students with learning opportunities that challenge them and to maximize their ability and ingenuity to think critically, problem solve, and communicate effectively. And we believe that including STEAM instruction, we can provide our students with experiential learning opportunities that will foster their continued development. We have redefined the use of one of our classrooms to establish a room where teachers and students come to inquire, collaborate, design, rethink ideas, and make real-life connections. We call this new learning environment the Exploration Lab. Our vision for the lab is to engage students in a collaborative and hands-on environment to help maximize students' skills to succeed in our rapidly changing world. So through our Exploration Lab, we are applying the rigor and relevance framework developed by the International Center for Leadership and Education. This tool helps to guide our thinking about our instruction. So the knowledge taxonomy, which you see on the y-axis, is based on Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy is a continuum of knowledge outlining the complex ways we think. The lowest levels involve learning and recalling knowledge, while the highest levels involve using the knowledge, typically combining multiple forms of knowledge and combining them in creative and complex ways. The x-axis is the application model, also moving on a continuum of complexity and predictability from acquisition to application. The lowest levels, learning for the sake of learning, and the highest level, applying the learning across disciplines and in real world or unpredictable settings. So when you look at that, the continuum, you can see that Bloom's taxonomy on the y-axis talks about the knowledge acquisition, which is your lowest level, and awareness, and then comprehension, moving up through application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. And across the x-axis, we're talking about how we apply that. Learning and recall, answering recall questions and writing quick responses, to applying those to real world. And so when you look at that, you can see the acquisition in the quadrant A, and then the application is a little bit more difficult as you go into quadrant B. In quadrant C, you're getting more difficult in the C, and then the final being the adaptation in D. So what that really means is, when you go to the next slide, is this how you would think of it? A teacher, in the first one, the teacher's doing most of the work, teaching the students this knowledge. In quadrant B, the student's starting to do more of the work. In C, they're really starting to think. But then in D, the student works and thinks. And so that's where we're trying to get to our students really working hard and thinking hard and using all of their knowledge and combining it to attack real-world problems. And so Laura is our instructional assistant who's been working in the Exploration Lab on a daily basis. And so she has some pictures and some descriptions of what's going on in the Exploration Lab.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening, Madam Superintendent, members of the school board, district employees, teachers, and members of the community. My name is Laura Manriquez, and I'm an instructional assistant here at the CUSD. I'm here tonight to tell you about some of the great things happening in the Aliso campus. So slide 2. This year, under the direction of Dr. Michelle Fox, Aliso has added a very exciting and important element to the student curriculum. We have now dedicated an exploration lab where amazing things are happening. In the lab, students work within the domains of science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics, or STEAM as we call it. Students engage, explore, evaluate, explain, and expand while addressing standards such as the next generation science standards. What do I do? It just goes. Each week, students are presented with a challenge and given an open-ended parameter which they work within. They then break into teams and collaborate while making a plan to accomplish the goals set forth before them. The process is completely student-driven, and each group forms its own pathway to finding an answer. Students have open access to a variety of materials, and they decide which materials to use and how to use them. This form of inquiry-based learning becomes a very exciting thing to watch, as it is driven by the students' own inquiry, curiosity, and inventiveness. The students bounce ideas off of each other, collaborate, design, and experiment. In effect, for a time, they become their own teachers, driving the learning with their own curiosity and ingenuity. As you might imagine, this makes for an hour that is rich in scientific content, conversation, and interactive discovery. Students are really stretching their brains to come up with ideas, and they are learning important social skills and working together, and they're finding that it can be exciting to look for and discover their own answers. One of the best outcomes of this kind of learning is that students are becoming excited about learning. Each week they enter the lab curious, excited, and ready to learn. If learning is something they love to do, then we have accomplished one of our biggest goals as educators. Let me take you through a few examples of what we have done recently in the Exploration Lab. The first week, our challenge was to create a marble maze through which a marble can travel. After a few vocabulary words were agreed upon, the ideas began to spark. Students sketched rudimentary maze designs and then started to build. Marbles found their ways through pathways deliberately constructed to incorporate obstacles before the final exit point. TK and K classes made use of developmentally appropriate modifications and found creative ways to personalize their mazes. After exploration was over, teams shared their marble maze design with the class, and the entire class expanded on the experience by offering constructive criticism and cheers. There's another K class. Okay. Yeah, next slide. The second week, our challenge was to build and test a marble run that moves quickly but allows the marble to stay on track and land in a cup. The excitement really took hold as students discovered many ways to use pipe insulation tubing.
Look at that.
The kindergartners made great use out of cardboard tubing. Before we knew it, marble runs were extending off tables and onto the floor, being made into loop-de-loops using dynamics such as gravity, acceleration, and centripetal force. Next one. Students were contemplating potential and kinetic energy calibrations and making adjustments. Okay, next one. Trial and error, eventually refined by the group's efforts, resulted in some pretty amazing marble runs. Building upon what we learned in the first 2 weeks, the third week was our challenge to build and test a marble maze run that has twists and turns but has a small base. As you can imagine, the idea was to delve deeper into the process of refining, redesigning, and improving our results, therefore creating new layers of student inquiry and discovery. Let's take a look at some of the actual marble maze runs in action.
We brought some samples for you. And there's a marble included if you'd like to try that.
Oh, yeah. Great. Yeah, that's fine. Ready? We're going to have a race. Ready?
On your marks.
Okay, let's see which one goes fastest.
Okay.
You have your marbles?
Everyone, don't lose your marbles.
Okay. On your mark, get set, go.
Wow.
Where is ours?
Oh, there it is. Bingo.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was
Yeah.
great.
That is very
Way to
cool.
go.
Yeah.
Oh, made it over there. He had two options.
In the ELISO Exploration Lab, we are accomplishing positive student outcomes, meeting NGSS standards, and are already getting positive feedback from students, teachers, and parents. The future holds many plans for the Exploration Lab, including the conceptualization and creation of a large, colorful mural incorporating the domains of science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. This will be a visual symbol to the community, reminding everyone of the wonderful and exciting learning that is happening in the ELISO Exploration Lab. There are plans in the works for interesting challenges and amazing discoveries each week. Perhaps the best of all, students are retaining the science concepts they are using and can't wait to explore more every week. Please feel free to come by and join us anytime you feel like it.
All right, so I'm kind of here from the teacher point of view. I'm excited about being here tonight just to kind of share all of the wonderful things that are happening at Aliso School. When we were talking about doing this presentation, I was like, there's so much going on and so much that led up to the Exploration Lab. It's kind of hard to know where to begin. I could sit here for days telling you about all the exciting things and the things that we've done and the professional development that we've done that kind of led to this idea. I kind of wanted to talk about some of the three best things of our school. We have our students, our staff, and our parents, and we are a team. But more than that, we're a family. Everyone on our staff gives 200%. We set high expectations for ourselves and for our students. This year, we have also been working hard with our community outreach as well, which has really helped us with Exploration Lab. It truly takes everyone working together to be successful and to meet the needs of every student. As a teacher, I'm excited to see both students and teachers working and learning together. And I think that's been one of the greatest things about the lab, is that the teachers are learning alongside the students. The Exploration Lab is a place where everyone is learning, making mistakes, challenging themselves, and growing. The great things that are happening in the lab are carrying over in the classroom and throughout the school. I have seen students that are having a difficult time in the classroom and are being successful in the Exploration Lab. That excitement for their learning, the teamwork, and the creativity is all carrying over into the classroom. We also wanted to give a big shout out to CEF. Without their support, the Exploration Lab wouldn't be possible. Over the past few years, the funds provided by CEF, along with site funds allocated by our school site council, we were able to purchase Chromebooks for our students. With these funds, we're close to a 1-to-1 ratio in our classroom, which allowed us to kind of dismantle our computer lab and put in the Exploration Lab. Having the Chromebooks in the classroom has also kind of let us use technology in other ways besides just in the lab. One of those ways is with Google Classroom. All of our teachers this year have created Google Classrooms for their students and are beginning to find new and exciting ways to use it. Just like the Exploration Lab, teachers are learning alongside their students. Dr. Fox has created a Google Classroom for teachers, where we are using the Google Classroom for staff development and to collaborate around how to best implement it with our own students. I'm excited to be part of all the wonderful things happening at Aliso School. We have some more exciting things planned in the near future, which will include things like coding and robotics. We will continue to work together as a team to improve student learning. We will find new and exciting ways to provide students with the learning opportunities that challenge them to maximize their ability and to think critically, problem solve, and communicate effectively. I just wanted to leave you with a few quotes from Class Dojo. These are some school climate videos that we have on Growth Mindset. The kids have watched them, and we also have them posted on our website. Anyone can be smart. You just have to work at it. Learning from mistakes makes your brain work extra hard so it can grow stronger. If you learn to love challenges, you'll always be growing until one day you can do something incredible. And, whoops, sorry. Everything is possible. It's not that we can't do this, it's just that we can't do it yet. So thank you for everything.
Yeah, wonderful.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, wonderful. Let me just, would you be kind enough to introduce all your colleagues from Aliso? Because I see some Aliso teachers. And
So Cecilia Long is fourth grade teacher, and then Gretchen Toffelmeyer, kindergarten, Claudia Juarez, kindergarten, and Mary Lewandowski, our TK teacher. I think that's who we have
Wonderful.
here. And they all have exciting stories if you ever want to come and see their classes work. It's great.
thank you so much for coming tonight and supporting
Yeah,
your team,
thank
because
you.
you've taught all
Yes.
day.
It was
Yeah,
super.
thank
We
you.
had Spirit Week this week too, and a superhero day.
Yes.
And so they're all superheroes.
Yes, you are superheroes. Absolutely. Yes, that's wonderful. Go ahead, Nasha.
All right.
Yeah, I just I'm so delighted by this program and this idea, and I hope it's contagious and catches wildfire across their brains and maybe across the district. And I just think it's such a great concept. Like, take a room that's not being used and then maximize it and create fun and opportunities. I just I think there's so many opportunities to now take this information and introduce learning across the curriculum. You know, the teachers, I'm sure, are going to go bananas with it, because they can do art projects based on it. They could do science projects based on it. They can do English projects based on it. You know, the sky's the limit. So I'm really excited. I also want to say that because Aliso also has a great science night, I think this program is like brilliant, because now science night's going to be, it might have to be a week. I don't know. or they'll be able to, you know, I don't know if we have a district-wide science fair, but I just think that there's with the state emphasis on science and then the national emphasis on STEAM, I just think this program is a no-brainer. And I just really applaud the creativity and teamwork and ingenuity that it took to you know, it's great to have ideas, but to make it happen and just the last thing I want to say is that with supplies, I know when I was teaching art through the Art Center that that community members really were happy to donate if they knew that there was a need. So things like, this is all stuff that people might have available in their garages and they want to get rid of. So anyways, just a thought out there to maybe put a word. The Coastal View might even run it for free, a little thing saying like, hey, donate your supplies to the arts room, the Explorer College room.
That's great. And we're going to put a wish list on our parent square
perfect.
too, so parents can see what we need.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. Really a wonderful program.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we can go grab our stuff. Unless you guys want to play.
We don't get,
I would like to, but yeah.
Was thinking
Thanks
about
again,
breakfast
Michelle. Great
tonight.
job. Brett, thank you so much, really. Brett. Laura, thanks again. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, and I love being in the classroom. It was great to visit.
all right, we'll move on to our Measure U presentation. And who's going to start, Dave or Cindy? Or both of you? All right. We have Dave Winiger and Cindy Abbott here. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you. Good evening. So this is our semi-annual Measure U update event. And so we'll be talking to you about what's been going on. A lot of our Measure U team is here. David and I are here. Our two architects and our consultant from DUDEC. And I will be introducing them. They each have sections in the PowerPoint. So we'll go ahead and get started. So I have an outline up on the screen just going through what we'll be talking about. David has some wonderful photos of the summer projects that he'd like to share. They're really fun and they really make the whole everything we talk about come alive. And then each of our architects will be presenting project updates for each of their sites. So that will be Joe Wilcox from Kruger Benson Ziemer and Robert Robles from Robert Robles Architects. Then we have an update on the coastal development permits, and that's Jonathan Leach from DUDEC. And I'm going to give you a brief update on state funding and some budget information as well. So David's going to get started with his photos, and Jolene's going to run that part of the show, I think.
Give the mouse.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, this is a look back at summer 2017's construction projects and the moving of the modular buildings, or the portable buildings, portable buildings at Catalino. And the first thing you can see that we did is we disconnected all the electrical and utilities to the existing buildings, and then also brought them up in elevation so that they could be moved to the new site. Next. And to move the buildings, we brought in a company from Los Angeles that specialized in portable moving, and they have all the equipment. We brought the buildings, we staged them out onto the field at Catalino. Next. And after staging the buildings in the field, we then brought in the utilities and started trenching that. This is one of the only campuses that we actually trenched the utilities in. All the rest of them were brought in overhead and were temporary utilities. These will become more permanent utilities, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. Next. More of the trenching through the asphalt playground. Next. And then we set the buildings. We brought them over and we set them down. You can see the very far ones are cribbed up still, and the buildings that are closer to us near the truck have the actual wood foundations, which are a temporary foundation approved by the state architect, and that'll be what all of our buildings rest on for the duration of their life expectancy. Next. And that's the finished product. And you can see we took a little bit of the area to the left and put picnic tables there, enlarged the asphalt section, which is to the right of that picnic area, for fire access to the site. Next. This is at the high school in front of the cafeteria building, and it shows us getting the site ready, prepping. Next. And we brought in one of the buildings on the right-hand side is from Canalino, and the other two buildings to the left are leased buildings that we brought in. And the space, that's okay. So then that allowed us to go ahead and start the demolition process back in the P wing. And that's P1, P2, and the buildings to the south of that got demoed so that we could move P10 out and back out in front of the cafeteria building. It was the only way that we could get it in there. Next. And that's the floor being torn up off of the old portables. Those buildings were 1962 to 65. Next. And there's a site prepped out, ready for the Gen 7's next phase, which is going to be the foundation phase. And it'll stay that way until we get the plans back from DSA, allowing us to build the new foundations. Next. Addition to the Gen 7 buildings, we also did the roof on the B and F wing. And the workers there were tearing it off. And that's a picture of the new roof going on, finished. Next. This is over at the middle school. This is rooms, I think it's 19 and 20 got removed, and then the two portables that you see to the right got moved into the new location, along with the one that's to the very far left that you can see the air handling equipment on. Next. And that's the site prep at the west end of the track at the middle school. Next. And it's the finished prep with the foundations laid, ready for the buildings. Next. And the buildings over at the middle school, we were able to actually move the buildings whole. We didn't have to break them down. You'll see two trucks there moving in tandem, and they moved them out to the middle of the field and staged them in the middle of the field, and then we oriented them and put them in their final location. Next.
That's amazing.
And then we went over to the buildings, obviously, and started the demolition process. Next. More demolition, foundations. Next. And cleaning up the site. And I want to say one thing about the demolition. All the materials were recycled. So the concrete got recycled, the metal got recycled, everything got recycled, got separated and recycled. Next. And there's the new location at the middle school. In addition, at the middle school, the shop art building got re-roofed. And that's the old roof just before it got completely torn off. Next. And that's the new Hypalon roof that went on. It's a cool roof. It'll keep the building a little cooler without air conditioning. Okay, I think that's it.
Did you take those with your drone, those pictures?
I'm sorry.
Did you take those pictures with your drone?
I did.
They're nice.
Yeah.
They're very cool.
Yeah, they are
Very
cool.
cool pictures.
Gizmo?
The gizmo? Which gizmo? That one, advanced. This thing?
Are you going to do your slides, or you want me to move your slides?
Well, I think people can move their slides. Okay. Okay. So, next up are our architects, beginning with Joe Wilcox.
Which button do I push?
You just push this one.
Okay. Good to see everybody on the board again. Thank you for having us here this evening.
Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Hello. So I'm going to start with the middle school. And for my first slide, David pretty much stole my thunder, but the site plan shows which portables got relocated on the site and which portables got demolished or removed. And also the site plan talks about the fact that we re-roofed the art and woodshop building. And we want to talk about what the next steps are at the middle school. And for the winter of 17, we're going to be doing fire alarm and voice evac. And if you remember from my previous presentations, that's one of the very first things that DSA wants to see is that you have your fire alarm and voice evac up to date, or else they won't plan check or they won't approve the modernization drawings. So that's already been approved, so that'll be starting in winter of this year. And also the district's doing the Prop 39 lighting projects this winter. This summer, we're hoping to be installing the Gen 7 foundations and buildings. They've been submitted to DSA in September. Part of that project requires realigning the track, and when we met with the site committee, they really wanted that chevron so they could see into those buildings and not have any places for students to hide and stuff, because they used to be a different configuration. Also, there's a little red dot above that one set of classrooms, and that's the new IT hub. And IT and electricity is so important these days. So we have hubs at both sites in order to get the MDFs and the IDFs to all the classrooms. Also in the summer of 18, we're going to be doing ADA restroom renovations, which are also part of the requirements of the Division of State Architect. And the front office redesign will be happening in the summer of 18. This is a floor plan that shows the design for that front office area. And right now, what we're talking about doing is we're talking about removing a section of the wall to the left when you come in the main entry doors and opening that wide up and redoing the casework so the person that is sort of in that front desk area can see people coming and going. And we're also adding a window to the principal's office. We met with the principal and he liked that idea. We do need to maintain the 1 hour corridor construction, so that we do have to have a door that separates, for example, above the principal's office. We can't just leave that wide open. So that 1 hour envelope has to wrap around where this front desk area is. Other work in progress, we're right now in the middle of doing construction drawings for the MP building, remodeling that MP space, and also the band room and the area that used to be the locker room. So that's going to be submitting that in April of 2018. And those dash lines, we've decided that the best way to handle the solar gain on those south-facing windows in the middle school is to do it with landscaping. Do it with the soft approach with trees and not build the trellis and not. We really like the architecture the way it is, and we've just decided we could save some money and do it with planting, and that's the direction we've been going.
Beautiful school.
High school. Again, David's photos were wonderful. So again, those are the portables that you can see that we relocated to the site, and we also relocated one from Catalino so that you could reduce the amount of portables that you had to lease. And then B and F were the roofs that we did this summer. And again, for 2017 and 18, we're going to get the softball dugouts in winter of 17. Bids come in October 31st. We're going to be installing the Gen 7 buildings, the science wing and the computer wing. Those are all also being checked by the Division of State Architect's office right now. There are going to be ADA restroom upgrades. There's that new IT hub, which everybody will rely on. And we're going to replace the walkways at B, F, G and the doors as well, like we did before. And then we're also going to, for the summer of 18, we've been working with our electrical engineer, and we're calling it the boring project. Not that it's boring, but we're going to be boring through all the concrete so we can have utility pathways across the entire campus. Since we think that there's going to be a lot of construction on this campus this summer, and that's the time to do it because we can't do that when the class is going on. Other work in progress, we have some meetings set to finalize the modernization of what we're going to be doing with the gym, as well as what we're calling the north area master plan of the gym. All the drawings, the architectural drawings for the modernizations of B, F, C, and G are finished. We just now are having the consultants do the electrical work, the mechanical work, the plumbing work, and that probably won't happen until the summer of 19, so we've got some time to get them up to speed and into the Division of State Architect's office. And we are continuing to have meetings on the student services building design. That floor plan is probably 80% complete, and we're just now tweaking it, and we should be able to keep on track with that one. Summerlin Elementary School, basically we've started talking to the county about their planning review process, and Jonathan Leach will be talking about the coastal development permit for your city schools, but the Summerlin is in the county, and we're just talking about the review of the Varley Street as well. Robert?
Thank you, Joe. Nice to see everybody again. And I'm just going to start out with Catalino. And you saw some pictures from David just earlier about the relocation of those portables out there. You can see in the red zone where those portables were, and we moved 6 of them up to the playground area as temporary classrooms, and 1 of them went out to Carpinteria High. So we're doing that so that we can make room for our new project, which is being worked on right now, and we are estimating that our approval will be next month on this through the Division of the State Architect. So wish me luck. I'm going in. So I think we're going to be fine.
Yeah,
I'm just joking. Have confidence.
So at any rate, that's what we're looking at for November. So if everything goes as smoothly as I hope, we'll be able to break ground on that project and have the major portion of the construction occurring next year. So summertime and even earlier for the site work aspects of it. So anyway, really looking forward to that. We've got some other infrastructure that's going to be done as well during the summer. The utilities and also the fire alarm work was also mentioned by Joe. We're also having tandem efforts on our engineer's part, who is working on those aspects of the job to create pathways underneath the existing concrete so we don't have to tear it up, as what Joe was calling the boring project. So, and some people think it's boring and some people don't. So you can see here is a what people call an artistic rendering. I call it architectural rendering. It's what your new Catalino elementary school permanent modular buildings will look like when they're all done. Little courtyard and the classroom wings. Those are your Gen 7 buildings. These are the drawings that we produced to present in front of the Architectural Board of Review a couple months ago, and they responded positively to it. And Jonathan Leach of Dudek will be following up, updating you guys on the whole process and how far we got with that. So I won't steal his thunder on that at all. Other work in progress for Catalino, we have the modernization. So what you see here in red is all the existing buildings on your campus, and these projects are just as important to us as the new construction. And there's a lot of work going on. We are working on that quite diligently, and we are looking at submittal to the DSA, the Division of the State Architect, early next year on this project. It's well underway. Turning to Aliso. Now, we've got some quick start summertime projects for 2018 that we're working on for that as well. We're going to be re-roofing the multipurpose building there, and we're looking at the possibility of using Spanish roof tiles, your 2-piece mission tiles there, because if you notice that's predominantly the roof on that whole campus, and that one particular building for some reason does not have a Spanish tile roof, so we're looking at feasibility of doing that to make it match the rest of the campus a lot more closely.
Beautiful.
And we also have we're also going to be looking at we're also going to be doing the front gate improvements, which is going to be a wrought iron gate with controls, and it's going to have panic hardware and built to last. And then we also have our infrastructure utilities boring project as well. Now, we also have this project that's on our drawing boards currently and is in production. It's currently in design development, which is a fancy term us architects use to describe the fact that the project is moved beyond the touchy-feely kind of artistic phase and is in engineering. So that's what we're doing on that. Again, we're looking at this project occurring next year.
And here's another artistic rendering of that new cluster of classrooms, the Gen 7 buildings for Aliso, viewed from that courtyard that we're creating for those buildings. Actually, rather, the courtyard is created by the buildings. So you can see that, and that has also gone through the architectural board review and the coastal development permit process, which Jonathan is going to speak on that with a little more detail. And then, of course, again, we're working on this project here, which is all the red is all the existing buildings on the campus. We are completing our drawings, and it is slated to be submitted to DSA early next year as well as Canalino's, so that those could run through the process and be ready for approval from DSA in time for our scheduled construction period. And then other projects. You guys are familiar with this because I think this was up on your agenda last time, I believe, this particular project. We continue to work on Carpinteria Children's Project at Maine, developing the drawings for the modernization project, so we're working on that still. And you can see here, there's also, in this particular site plan, you can see the buildings in blue. Those are the new modular buildings that are being planned for that as well. And let me see if I have any more here for you. Oh, I do. Here we go. Rincon and Foothill High Schools, and you guys are all familiar with this, I believe, is what we're doing based upon the work that's being done by Joe's office, where they're going to be vacating that existing administration building, opening up an opportunity to create a hybrid classroom / administration building for Rincon High School, Rincon and Foothill High Schools. So again, we're working on those as well, and everything is on schedule. Let me see if that might be it. Yeah, I think that's it. Unless you have any other questions. Any questions, that is. We'll move on.
I do have some questions, but should I save them till the very end, or?
Well, if they're specific to his presentation.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Then probably.
Okay. Yeah, they're minor questions, but they have to do with various buildings.
Mm-hmm.
With the CMS, Carpinteria Middle School, the Prop 39 lighting, that has to do with the fluorescent, getting rid of incandescent bulbs and moving it. Is that what it's referring to?
I wouldn't be the one to speak on that question because it's not our project.
Okay,
But
sorry.
You want to speak on that?
Yeah, the Prop 39 project at the middle school is to get rid of the incandescents and put in LED lighting.
And is that going to address the buzzing, the terrible buzzing problem at the gym, in the gym?
It's already done.
It's already
taken
done.
care of.
Okay, forget it. We'll
We
just
did
check
put
that
the
off the
LEDs
list.
in.
Great. Then, in terms of modernization at Canalino, across the schools, that would include plumbing updates, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
'Cause I
plumbing-
happened to be witness to the flood at Canalino recently.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes.
In the front office room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, yes, you're correct. The idea behind all the modernizations is it's the district's opportunity to update all the aging systems. So it involves mechanical, HVAC systems or heating systems in most cases. There's not a lot of air conditioner,
Okay.
but mostly heating. And then plumbing updates, Americans with Disabilities Act, so that always affects restrooms.
Okay,
of
and
course,
just,
plumbing.
I'm sure this will be part of it, but there wasn't a clear shutoff valve, so literally the urinal was exploding out everywhere, and there was 8 adults looking in this supply closet saying, "Where is the shutoff valve?" So hopefully
Yeah.
there'll be some training around how to
we
shut
added
things
a
off.
we added a shutoff valve last summer.
This was this fall, so
Yeah, So, but I'm not sure which restroom
Anyways,
we're
yeah.
talking about. But we're also, if you're talking now with Canalino. Oh,
Yes,
I thought you were talking about Canalino.
Canalino, yes.
Yeah.
The front
Okay,
office at
yeah.
Canalino.
Okay, so no, we didn't work on the front
Yeah.
office this
It,
summer.
it's I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that, anyways.
No, it's
you
totally
get what I'm
important.
saying. Yeah.
I get it. I want to let you know is that has been identified in terms of Canalino as it being difficult to shut down the water at that particular
Interesting.
school. So what we're going to do with our modernization project is we're going to install shutoff valves per wing so that you could isolate wing by wing instead of having to turn off the entire campus when a repair needs to be
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I can witness that it was hard to shut things off. Anyways, with Aliso, now I know we had that whole gate question that we've looked at before. So, and I know at one point they were looking at maybe switching the front office area to the kind of not being used band area or something. Is that off the table now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that we're moving forward with that plan.
That is happening, but we still need the super hyper secure gate.
That's
over
the
on
gate.
the-
Yes, the gate.
I think that was going to be a temporary, permanent, basically something that
Okay.
will be an interim measure while those other projects of modernization, because
Okay.
that moving
Got
the front
it.
office over to the other wing,
'Cause it's gonna
was
take a
part of the
while.
modernization. So this is kind of an interim, but it's something that can remain there permanently.
Okay. And then another,
Exactly.
just
Yes.
since we're talking gates and Aliso, is that there's a constant kind of question about the low fencing, which just in terms of like lockdown drills or whatever doesn't seem to make a lot of. I'm just speaking for myself personally, so I don't know if fencing is a part of, but I don't know. People might want to think about that with Aliso, just a consistency of fencing in terms of safety. Okay,
Yes.
that's fencing.
Mhm.
Just two last points really quickly.
No problem.
The trees and all the renderings are these beautiful, lovely, mature trees. Is that actually going to be able to happen? Because I know Aliso lost a tree during the summer, and you know what I mean. It really affects a campus to have little trees or big, mature, beautiful shade trees when it gets hot.
Yeah, it takes a while.
So they'll
to
be like
grow.
smaller trees.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Got it.
I know Oprah Winfrey took in some very large trees and shut down the freeway to get them in. But
Right.
That's,
Yeah. Got it.
I don't think that's
Got
going to
it.
happen in this particular case.
We don't have her bank account.
We don't have her bank account. Sorry. Anyone want to donate some mature avocado trees? Anyways, no, that's another thought
So,
altogether.
But
And-
yeah, it's going to take a little patience. But our landscape architect is really great that we have working with us on this, and
Okay.
we're trying to strike the right balance between shade. Obviously, we want shade wherever there's an area where it's like a lunch area or wherever kids are going to want to sit down and such. And then the other directive that we've received is we're going drought tolerant, because obviously water is an issue and will continue to remain a scarcity issue for as long as we're all alive.
Yeah, I think that's great. And then I know also, like at Children's Project, there's these weird shade pockets of places around playgrounds that just don't ever seem to dry out or be able to hold sod well. So that's another, whatever, they'll all figure this out. But my last point being at Children's Project, because it was not a building ever built for a preschool use, those wings, the former library, that giant building, has the playground around it. And I just hope that they're kind of looking at the way it's being used is the children have to go into the building and then they have to go outside. So I think there's possibly some places there where doors could be utilized, because it's really it's a terrible traffic. Well, maybe there's some regulation around it with preschool licensing, but as a former parent of a kid who went there, it was really hard. Like if a kid scraped their knee, it was hard to get them from outside to inside. So just looking at traffic patterns with the preschool kids and the classroom uses there, because I didn't see indications of doors changing really for those two buildings.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of discussion with that about that,
great.
and we will
No
continue
problem.
to have a lot of
Okay,
discussion
great.
about that for sure,
Great.
because that's very important.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I have another question.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Looks like last time that we were going to apply to get additional state money. I think around 10 million or so on top of the 90 million. Do you know the status of that?
I think Cindy's
Yeah,
going
I-
to address that later
Yeah,
in the presentation.
I think Cindy Abbott would probably be the better
All right.
person to lead
Okay, that's
that
right.
question.
That's right.
Yeah.
She was a.
Yeah, I just design them.
All right.
You just want to be paid.
Okay.
Just-
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Last quick question too, and with the Rincon High School, I know it's moving locations. Is it losing or gaining? What's the status of its changing size at all? Is it changing size at all?
No, we're not changing any sizes.
Okay.
What we have here is what we have right here is just showing you the the administration building.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another aspect to the plan that was approved in November 2016 that involved an addition of a modular building as well. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Good evening, members of the board, superintendent. So I've been asked to give you my habitual update on, okay, let's see here. There we are, on California Environmental Quality Act and local coastal permitting. The last time I was before you, we were in the planning stages. I was describing for you the way that we intended to satisfy CEQA in terms of environmental review for the campuses, and that was really before we engaged with the city of Carpinteria. The schools that we've been talking about this evening, other than Summerland, are all within the city of Carpinteria. Because the entire city of Carpinteria lies within the coastal zone, where you would not have cities' participation in this approval process for school facilities. You do have their participation because they have the authority for the coastal development permit approval process. And so we engaged with the city, and in fact, in speaking with the community development director and taking a look at sort of the larger plans for each of the campus, the overall vision of not only what's been achieved thus far over the summer, but the first phase that the architects have been describing for you. The city really wanted us to look at each campus on a master planning level to capture improvements that would go beyond this first phase. Still part of the Measure U bond funding, but not the first set of applications that the architects have done work for and which we've applied to DSA for approvals on. So in fact, what we did was sit down and look at, for instance, on the Canalino School, the first phase are the portables changing to being the modulars. The second phase is the addition of a learning center. The third phase is rearrangement of the parking lots and internal circulation. The city wanted to see all of those steps so that the coastal development permit could be issued one time. It's a lot of effort and a lot of opportunities for input and feedback and delay each time you request a coastal development permit. So it was really in the district's best interest that the city said, show us the complete picture. So for Canalino, we've got all the phases that would occur there as part of that application. For the Aliso School, there are some parking lot improvements that would happen at a future phase. The funding is not complete for those yet, but as the funding becomes available, those are included in the approval that was issued by the city. For the middle school, the future improvements around the lunch areas, including the new trees that would be planted, has been approved. For Carpinteria High School, the addition of the portable structure, or the now modular structure, to build out Rincon High School was included. The new administration building has been included, even though it's not part of the current DSA submittal, and a future auditorium building was included, even though it still has yet to be fully planned out. So for Aliso, Canalino, Carpinteria High School, Carpinteria Middle School, we did obtain an approval for a coastal development permit and a conditional use permit that addresses all of the activities that we foresee are going to occur at those campuses as part of the Measure U bond effort. So we're not going to have to go back to the city for any of those processes. The one sort of caveat to that is if the administration building or the auditorium are approached as traditional, conventional built from the ground up as opposed to using the modular structures, then the city would like us to come back just for a design review of those structures because they haven't seen what they might look like. But that's a very minor review process, and it won't affect the already issued coastal development permits for those. So you just see on the bottom, future city review, architecture review board for the admin building and the auditorium at Carpenter High School. At Catalino, we've said at this point we think that the pupil learning center is going to be a modular type of building if the district changes their mind and wants to construct that from scratch. The city would like to see those design plans, but just a very brief review of them. And then for Carpenter Middle School, if the district at the last moment decides that fees or trees for whatever reason aren't feasible, then the city would like to see those shade structure designs. But again, a very minimal type of review that's involved there. So by and large, those 4 campuses, we're done with the participation in the city, and we have the approvals that we need. It has not, I don't believe, wound up delaying the loan application process as we all feared could happen a couple of months back, so that's all great news. In terms of Summerlin, actually 2, Main School Children's Project. As you saw, Robert is still fleshing out the plans for the improvements that are going to happen at that school. So we have not yet made an application to the City of Carpinteria for that coastal development permit, conditional use permit, so that is pending. And for Summerlin Elementary School, that is through the County of Santa Barbara. We have had a pre-application meeting with them where they've given us basically some feedback in terms of building location, setbacks from property lines. The conceptual plans, site plan that we shared with them seems to meet those criteria, but they really want us to approach the local Summerlin Board of Architecture review with more detailed elevations and plans for the local community to approve, buy in, give feedback, make any suggestions that they might want to before we make a formal application to the county. They would rather us proceed in that fashion than to make an application with the county, have the county begin the review process, and then Summerlin gets involved a little bit later on, says, oh, wouldn't it be nice if that building were blue instead of yellow, or whatever. So we are, Joe's shop is working on those conceptual elevations and renderings to be able to meet with the Summerlin Board of Architecture review probably in the coming 3 to 4 weeks. And with that, I get to turn it back over to Cindy.
Can I just ask 2 quick questions? With the with the coastal development permits, are those we're in the coastal zone, but they're being approved through the city. We're not dealing with the coastal commission. Is that correct?
The city retains authority to do the primary approval of those projects. The only way that they would make it to the Coastal Commission would be on appeal, and the appeal period, what's the date today? The 10th. Yeah. So the 10-day appeal period for that decision has already passed, so the Coastal Commission will not be involved in those.
Okay. And then for all of these applications, are they available to the public to look at somewhere? Is there a way for other people to take a look at these applications?
They are not currently posted on a website. It would probably be possible.
It's on the city's website. Yeah.
Cindy has reminded me that the city does have them posted on their website.
So the city would have the one for the schools in the city of Carp, and then
Yes.
the county would have the Summerlin one, but it's not submitted
We have
yet?
not applied yet to
Okay.
Summerlin, to the county, so that one does not exist. But Cindy is absolutely correct. If you go to the Planning Commission hearing date of October 2nd, there will be a staff report for each of the 4 campuses that the city has acted on, and in the staff report you'll see the application materials and the staff report. And so I actually misspoke. I forgot that it seemed like a lifetime ago, but it was only a week. So the appeal period is not quite over yet then for that decision by the
Okay,
city.
so they already met and approved these. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jonathan.
Okay, we have already been talking about applying for state funding, so I wanted to give you a little bit of an update. First of all, there is $9 billion of funding that was approved by the voters. $6 billion of that is for K-12 schools. There's $3 billion of that for new construction and $3 billion for modernization.
Not billion.
It's
I fixed the PowerPoint.
Oh, you're talking about state. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I thought you were talking about our budget.
No. Oh.
I'm sorry?
You know,
$1 billion.
State.
Yeah.
You know,
I was reading one thing and I was hearing
Well,
billion.
it's different on the different on
it
the on the
is.
PowerPoint.
I found that today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cindy.
And
Big
thanks
numbers.
to Jolene was able to update it. But you know, millions, billions, trillions, what's the difference? You know, it's just a few zeros. So the funding, there were a lot of school districts that had already applied for funding before the election. And so they all were in a queue. And so the update that I have up here, I get from School Facilities Consultants, whose contract is in your agenda. They are the people that work on our applications. And so the update that I got from them is that for new construction projects, there's just over a third of the money still left. That's enough for us, but just to give you an idea that we feel like we want to move things as quickly as possible through the process so that we can get in line and get that money. For modernization, there's almost 60% of that money still left. So we will be getting that. One of the important things to remember is we cannot put in applications until we have fully approved drawings from DSA. So far we do not have fully approved drawings for anything. And the first project that will be coming out will be the modular classrooms at Catalino, which Robert mentioned we would be hopefully getting those approved next month. So when next month comes, and as soon as we have that approval, then we begin working with School Facilities Consultants, and they help us do the application with the Office of Public School Construction so that we can get in line and get that funding. So as each project gets approved by DSA, we then begin the application process as quickly as possible so we can get in line for that money. As I've mentioned in other updates, we are currently eligible for about $2.8 million of new construction money for our elementary specifically, and then for modernization about $11 million spread among the campuses based on their eligibility. So I talked a little bit about the strategy. Obviously, we want to get our applications in as quickly as possible. The first project for Catalino is currently eligible for new construction funding. So our plan is to apply for that funding immediately when we have those drawings, and then apply for all the other projects as they are approved. So each of the modular projects would then be eligible for modernization funds, and also modernization projects for the existing buildings. Now keep in mind that different campuses have different eligibility. So the campuses that have the most significant amount of money available are Catalino and the high school. So our focus is going to be, let's try and get those projects in quickly. At the other campuses, it's a few $100,000, which we'll apply for, but it's not going to cover a significant part of the project.
Cindy, I maybe just to clarify for the everyone listening, is that the other campuses, like Aliso in particular, is not eligible for as much money because it received so much money in the last bond state matching grant, correct?
Correct. So they look at how much money they've given us in the past, and that's also true with Carpinteria Middle School. Obviously, we did a lot of work on that campus in the late 1900s, 1999 in 2000. So therefore, there's only, I think it's like $300,000 that we're eligible for at the middle school. But that's money, and we'll be applying for it because it's worth having.
And Cindy, is there a deadline to apply for that money?
Pardon me?
Is there a deadline to apply for that state funding?
Is it
A deadline.
a deadline?
It's when the money runs out.
When the money runs out. I mean, yeah. I mean, otherwise what happens is school districts do exactly what we're doing. You get your project approved by DSA, then you submit your application and it gets in line. And they're going to, as long as you qualify, you're going to be getting that funding until they run out of money.
And is this funding going to be the roughly $13 million, I believe, that we're looking at trying to apply for?
Yeah, 13.8.
Yeah, is that on top of the $90 million, or is that in?
Yeah, it's on top.
Does that mean that we wouldn't have to try and fund that?
It's
13
additional
million?
money. So the way it works is for new construction money, you have to match it. So we said it's $2.8 million that we're eligible for. We have to match it in the amount of the 2.8. So it's 50-50. For modernization, we have to match it 40%, and the state puts in 60%. So it's on top of what we're spending. So we can use it
Plus
to
the 13.
Right.
to augment what we're getting in the $90 million bond. Does that make sense?
Or it could potentially offset the $90 million if we didn't have projects that used it up.
Well, inevitably with these bonds, the inflation costs and increasing construction costs also are
They're
can be
factored in, though,
you're right.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, there are bonds that have been approved, and all the construction projects have not been accomplished. You know what I mean? There are school bonds that have been approved, but they weren't able to actually construct all of the projects. There's an example of that in Isla Vista. So the Isla Vista School District.
Because they didn't have the funding.
Right, exactly.
Right.
They approved the bond, but prices changed and realities arose. And so, anyways.
Sure. And that's why we manage all of our projects through our budgeting process, so we can keep track of what things are costing, what our projections are.
Right.
To best manage the money. But if you remember, all of the conceptual plans that were approved, on a number of the campuses, if you made estimates for all of the projects that were included, that's higher than the allocation that we have of the bond money. So obviously getting state money is going to be extremely helpful and a really important part of our work.
And will that be enough? The $90 million bond plus the state funding to complete all the projects?
Well, that's what we're hoping for. I mean, that's the question. And again, it'll depend on how much everything really costs and what timelines we're working with. But certainly our goal is to accomplish as much as we can with the bond money and the state money and get close to where we want to be. That's the goal.
So it sounds like this $13 million is initially earmarked for the campuses for Catalino and the high school. Is that correct? Because of the funding structures and history of those projects?
Yes, there's an allocation for each campus, and I just didn't include it as a slide this time.
So does that mean that the projects that are not covered by that funding, I mean, does it shift our timeline at all, this funding?
Well, it was a strategic, I think we talked
Yeah,
about
I understand
that
that.
earlier,
I understand that. But if that money is received, does it allow us to push projects forward a little faster at the other campuses?
I think that we're pushing everything forward as quickly as we can everywhere.
Okay.
I mean, I think if you talk to Joe and Robert, they would feel like we're pretty much pushing everything everywhere.
Okay.
So we are right on schedule,
Yeah.
or a little bit behind, because of the.
No, we're not behind.
I'm not behind.
We're not
Not
behind.
behind.
At all.
I mean, all these things take time to plan, but in the presentation, you can see what our anticipated submittal dates are to DSA and when we expect to be building those projects.
I'm curious, just, would the sidewalk improvements that we've done at the high school count towards modernization, since they are, and could we submit those now since they're approved? No, we couldn't?
There wasn't a DSA job.
Oh, it wasn't. So it has to be a DSA job.
You're going to have plenty of modernization.
No, I'm just trying to think to get in the queue, get something in the queue now.
They can be bundled. So my understanding in talking with school facilities consultants, because they know that we've had a few jobs here and there, like roofing projects that didn't go through DSA, they have told me that when we sit down and work on an actual application, that we'll be able to
We
bundle
can
it.
include those with it.
Yes,
Okay.
in
all right.
some cases, depending on what they are,
Yeah.
but yes.
So that's our plan. I just,
That is the plan, yeah.
okay.
So I mentioned that we use our budgeting process to make sure that we are taking the best advantage of our bond money, and then of course as we get state funds, taking advantage of that. So the site budgets, and you have copies of all the reports because those are going to the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee next week. Each site budget has been developed in a way that you start with the site allocations in the facility master plan. So that's the allocation that is laid out campus by campus. And then once we start planning our projects, we start moving money from the allocation into specific projects. And you'll see that in the summary budget spreadsheets in a minute. We have some costs that we know. We have contracts that you approved with American Modular for the Gen 7 buildings. So those are fixed costs. Other costs have been estimated. So for example, on those projects, the site work and the foundations are just estimates at this point. We also have more general estimates that were done in terms of trying to understand what the costs were for the conceptual plan. So those are really general budgets. So all of those have been factored into each site budget at this point. And then as we get more design work done, as we start bidding projects, we start revising those budgets to try to make them more accurate. So you'll start seeing a lot of changes in budgets as the months go by when you look at the reports, because we have more accurate data. And in one of your reports at the end, you'll see there's kind of a cash flow analysis. And in looking at that, it looks like we need to start planning for a bond sale late next fall. So that'll be in 2018. That's when we hope to be out of the first 20 million. So managing cash flow is also really important and part of the program software that I'm using. Okay, so lots of little numbers, and this is where I will, Mr. Schaefer, I will move it fast. How's that? Well, it's a lot of stuff. But will the mouse work, Jolene? I can just point out stuff really quickly. So this is like the easiest report to review because it's only several pages long, and it's grouped by site and it's grouped by programs. And so you can see the budgets. The initial budgets are the site allocations in the master plan. And then as I start moving money around to specific projects, you can see the adjustments going in. Then you have commitments, which are actual purchase orders and contracts, and our expenditures. And we compare the expenditures for each project to the budget. So all of this area here are the planning and program administration area. So the planning department here is program administration, so the costs are included there. All of the environmental reviews that Jonathan's been working on are in the detailed project planning for each of those sites. So there's a lot going on in this section. The next section is technology. And you can see here that the site allocation was $1 million. That comes from the master plan. And we have spent 200, the numbers are little for me too, but 200 and some odd thousand. Thank you. We have spent that on a lot of technology infrastructure, which we are hoping to get back through E-rate funding, but as far as I know, we have not heard yet whether we're getting that money, so we're using Measure U dollars. Then we have the ALISO, and you can see the different projects up here that are listed, the site allocations. I can see it. I've got it here. I'm going to actually have to look at my sheet. So the site allocation of $8.7 million here, and it's now being allocated into estimated costs for the types of projects that Robert talked to you about earlier in his presentation. So you can see that we have amounts budgeted for our fire alarm systems, and this is true on every campus. The campus-wide modernization and the modular classrooms. So we're building the budgets for each site. Now, what I will say is that in cases where the site allocation is not adequate to accommodate all of our initial estimates, and that will be true at ALISO for the modernization. We're budgeting only certain portions of the modernization until we get more funding in. So it's important to keep in mind that that number is constrained right now because we don't have any state funding. Once we get state funding, then we'll have more money to spend on modernization, and that number will be increased. So that's ALISO, Catalino. Again, it's the same sort of situation where we've budgeted out all of the projects, the modular project, the campus learning center, modernization for the classrooms. And again, it's the site allocation of $9.9 million isn't adequate to cover all of the estimated costs in the conceptual plans. So that we will definitely be looking forward to receiving state funding for Catalino. The same thing is true with the Carpinteria Children's Project, which is down here. And then the high school has the most numbers of projects. And you can see here that there are budgets for most of what we expect to be doing up at the high school. So you can see the walkway replacement projects, fire alarm, the administration building is $2.6 million. Gymnasium modernization, $3.7 million. There's a lot of work to be done still on some of these projects like the gym, and so these are very, very, very preliminary budgets.
So, and I'm new on all this because I came in after many of these things were already approved, so I'm kind of the Johnny-come-lately to all this, and I apologize. But basically, am I hearing you say that things were budgeted with the knowledge of that there wasn't going to be enough money to cover the expenses of them? that the bond was approved knowing, oh,
No.
you know, this is going to cost more than we're budgeting for?
No.
Because it does add up to 90 million at the end, doesn't it?
It does,
Yeah.
because that's all the money we have to spend. We can't budget more than the money we have, right?
But wasn't the plan, you know, wasn't the budget, I mean, excuse me, the bond was raised, like a deliberate number was raised for the bond with the intention of covering X projects. So could you just clarify that for me?
Sure, of
Yeah.
course. When we put together the data for coming up with estimated costs for the bond, it was a very general, high-level kind of estimate.
What do you mean by high level?
Well, so for example, if we knew we needed to do modernization at the high school, we would talk to our architect, who was Joe, and say, how much per square foot do you think it's going to be? It's really general. You have some ideas about what you want to do, but you don't know everything that you're going to need to do. And I can give you a really good example of that, is that we've had to do work on the walkways up there in order to have ADA compliance. Nobody thought about that when we were doing the bond. It just wasn't something we thought about. And here I'm talking about the situation where the original walkways, the threshold's about this much higher in each classroom, and it's not ADA compliant. And the only way to fix it was to take out the walkways and re-pour the concrete up level to the classroom floors. Nobody thought about that when we were doing the bond. You can't think about that unless you want to spend a tremendous amount of money with your engineers and architects to come up with all that. So the 90 million was based on an extremely rough estimate about what certain things would cost, and people's minds changed about what it was that they wanted to some degree. So that's why. And so it's not surprising or unusual that when you sit down later on and you start working with the sites and you hear about what they want to do and what they need, that it's going to be something a little different from what you thought about when you were putting together the bond.
So who's going to act as a reality check to say, yes, you want X, Y, and Z, but you can only get X and Y? Do you know when does that happen?
That has happened.
We
It's
did
been
that.
happening
Okay.
all along.
So I think it's important to note too that some of these were wish list
Yeah.
things that weren't really necessary, but we were working and we were prioritizing, and then when the state money comes in, that's going to help some of these wishes come true.
Well, but I think that there's already a, you know, there's already a bias towards the schools that are going to receive state funding. They're being fast tracked because, do you see what I'm saying? That it's just trying to make sure that there's equity and that the campuses are being equally modernized if we're taking this big step, and that, you know, one school isn't getting, you know, reaping more benefits than the others, because it's, you know, not every student goes to every school in our district, right?
But I don't know that by concentrating on projects where we actually get matching dollars is showing a bias. It's showing good economics.
Right, but what I'm saying is once the money's out, the money's out. You know, and whatever projects you haven't gotten to, anyone who's done construction of any kind, whether it's building a birdhouse in your backyard, you know this, like you have a budget for the project and you always dream bigger than you think it's going to be. And then at the end of the day.
But if we don't go for those projects.
No, I'm not saying that.
Well, no, you kind of are.
No, I'm not at all.
Okay.
No, I'm just saying I'm curious as to the process of how my concern is equity for all students across our district. And the concern being somebody is making decisions about which projects are going to go forward. So what I'm hearing is it sounds like those are coming from the sites, but how are we deciding across the district, that ensuring that there's equity across the district and that one area isn't just getting more attention and more funding and more modernization that's not going to actually benefit, you know, the best bang for our buck?
So that work, my understanding is in any building project, that work has already been done. That was done a long time
The
ago.
triage
Absolutely.
checklist?
You cannot go out to your community for a 90 million bond if you've not already done that. So that was done
There were
3 years ago.
There were priorities
Yeah. Yeah.
made. You know, when we put together the facility master plan,
Mm-hmm.
we created. You know, they were high level estimates, but there were priorities that the local site committees came up with, and they basically said this is our priority list. And then the board, when we approved the issuance of the you know, the measure to go out for the bond, that was part of our, you know, our
So
description.
the facility master plan is your guiding document in terms of how to.
Yes.
2012.
There's a whole section which outlines the board's priorities in terms of how that money should be spent.
Right.
And
Then-
so the highest priority was to replace portable classrooms. So that's true on every
It
campus.
was based on community input.
Right, and I think if that piece is an important piece of how this decision-making process is being followed, I really feel like I would need to see that. Do you know what I mean? I think it's just like a
on the
missing
website.
piece.
On the website.
Because I can't know something that I don't even know about.
Yeah, the best.
on the
Yeah,
Medway
I had the same
website.
questions
Right.
when I first arrived. So what really helped me was to review the facilities master
But
plan.
I mean, I think isn't it okay to bring it into these updates too, and just say, hey, you know, this is where we are. I mean, maybe not tonight, but as things are moving forward, if there is a moment where things have to be triaged, I hope that document is being referenced, and for you to bring it back to us and say, you know, we're having to, you know, ixnay this project, but we're still falling under the guidance of our master plan.
Yeah. And actually, I'll help you out because I've been through a big building project. It's value engineering, not triage. So it's value engineering.
Right.
And so you're absolutely right. In construction projects, you value engineer as you go along because, as Cindy pointed out, there's surprises that no one could ever predict, and you have to spend your money there because DSA says that, or it's ADA and things like that, so you're making decisions. But what guides you is always your facilities master plan, and that is for this district is 2012. That's the one I looked at, so that will help out. But I see your point. Your point is it would really help, because that was years ago, just to remind everybody.
Right, because the community is looking at this $90 million, and it's their money. It's the community's money. It's not any of our money. It's the community's money, and they are holding us all accountable to where that's being spent, and they want to ensure that, you know, it's being spent wisely, just like any of us would if we were remodeling our own houses, you know?
Sure, a good
So-
reminder of where that is in the facilities master
Right.
plan is helpful, and we can do that. So,
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yes,
Yep.
and basically that's the same thing that I have written here. It is the community's money, this bond, that most of us are paying for that bond for years and years. And let's say roughly we're talking about 500 students per school site, and there's parents, you know, at every school site. So I think that every student deserves the same treatment, same.
Well, I think what we're saying is that they are receiving similar focus based on the needs of that school. So the needs of Canalino are not the same as the middle school or Aliso. But at the end of the day, we all can be proud that we've met their needs.
But within, let's say, 5 years, Aliso or whatever school site, it's going to need some improvements.
Well,
Yes, we
And where is
constantly
the-
look at that.
And where is
Yeah.
the money is going to
So
come
there's
from?
always
Yeah.
a deferred maintenance also in our budget, so there's always facility money, always. This is unique to these projects, but if Aliso needed a roof replacement, we have money in our budget that we allocate for that. Does that make sense? Am I correct on that?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. So this is pretty much the high school budget, and we talked a little bit about that. When we get to the middle school, it's pretty much the same story for each of the campuses, where you see budget allocations for fire alarm systems and the modulars and roof replacements, classroom modernization. They're all in there, and as we go forward, we'll be refining them as we get more precise estimates. On the next page, let's see, is that the middle school? Whoops. go back. Back. Yeah, let's see here. Okay. There we go. Okay. It's so small I can't even see it. So these are the last pieces of the budget. So you have the district office, Rincon High School, and Summerlin School. So at the bottom of this, and this is what I always look for when I'm working on these budgets, is you're starting with the initial budget. There's the $90 million. That's the bond money. That money isn't going to change until we begin to get state funds. There are the adjustments, transferring monies around, and so this 3.467 is the money that you all agreed to put towards Summerlin. And over here you can see that our expenditures to date are $8.1 million. So for all of the projects, that's what we have spent to date for the $20 million. So that's pretty much as of the end of September. So this report, and along with the detailed reports, will all be reviewed by the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee next Tuesday. But you have an opportunity to see those reports that are also in your packet. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, just going, just two things on the very first page, the program budget.
Sure.
That's. Can you explain what that means? The program, where it says program contingency program.
So these were pieces of the allocations in the master plan that weren't specifically related to a site. So, for example, the first line says contingency. If you looked in the master plan and you looked at the allocations, there's a $6 million allocation for contingency. So that's money that we've set aside for unknowns. So there's that. There's items in here that are the detailed site programming for each of the sites, which is coming out of the project administration budget, which is at the bottom. There's an item for escalation and inflation, and that's $4,444,000.
For the furnishings and equipment, is that $240,000 that's already been spent?
That is money that has been allocated to the furnishings for the Gen 7s at the middle school. So that would be like the teaching walls and the things that are coming inside the classroom. So other than that, none of that money has been allocated yet.
And so it's in parentheses because it's already been spent, or?
No, it's in parentheses because it's being moved from furnishings and equipment budget to the middle school modular budget.
Okay, and then the project's administration budget of $5 million?
That is the facility department. So all of the costs that we incur in managing the projects district-wide are included in that budget.
Okay.
So that's the plan for spending up to $5 million over the life of the bond measure for all of the project administration.
And then the $400,000 that's in parentheses from that?
So that has been transferred from the project administration back up to the detailed site programming up above. So those are...
So when it gets spent from
Right.
on a project, it comes out of the program budget
Okay.
and goes to the site-specific budget.
So we've already spent $400,000?
Well, not necessarily spent. We've budgeted.
Budgeted.
That. If you go to the right-hand side of the spreadsheet, you can see what we've actually spent. So if you looked at detailed site programming, LISO, there's a budget of $33,660. We have spent $29,339.
So for project administration, its total expenditures is $1.7 million already?
Correct.
So there's only, at that rate of spending, there's only about 3 more years of worth in the budget?
That's probably pretty close. We did have more upfront costs. So, for example, The building that we have for the facility department, there were a lot of upfront costs in getting that in, and so obviously that was spent at the very beginning of the bond. So you're not necessarily, it's not going to be spent evenly through the life of the projects.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Anything else?
Thanks,
Good
Cindy.
questions? Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
This presentation.
Thank you.
It's very exciting.
It is
Aren't
very
you
exciting.
excited about all
Yeah.
this?
I just
Facilities.
while I've got you both here, and Jonathan as well. I know we got off to a little rocky start with the city and everything, but I think we're all pleased that everything's smoothed out and we were able to get through coastal development. And I'd really like to thank the city for working with us so well and suggesting that we apply for everything at once. I think that was a really good suggestion, and you know, I'm pleased that it appears we're ahead of schedule on a number of these things, and our budget, and we're within budget. I think the plans and the way we've executed has been excellent, and now it goes to planning. So thanks, Dave and Cindy and Joe and Robert. You guys, you know, I think that we're all very lucky to have you on our team, and we're looking forward to getting all this rest of this stuff going.
It's very exciting.
So get back to work. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Well, they probably want to hear the results.
Yes, they do.
And then we can let them go.
Yeah.
How's that? Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on to D5, and it's a presentation of the results of the 2017 California Assessment for Student Performance and Progress, the CASP, and the Smarter Balance Test.
Thank you, Andy. So this is a good preview to our November meeting, in which you're going to be able to work with the principals. They're going to be presenting their single school plan for student achievement. So I'm presenting information that will be helpful for us to match where we are right now in terms of student learning, and what our goals are, and what actions that are going to take place at the individual school sites to improve the student learning. So you all recall that every year our students participate in the California Assessment statewide testing, and part of the CASP system is the Smarter Balance Assessment, and that's grades 3 through 8th and 11th grade. So we have results for overall results, as well as for individual groups. So I am going to go through them tonight, and you certainly can ask questions about it. But the important work is not necessarily focusing on the value of those results in terms of where we are now. It just gives you a picture of where we need to be. So I want you to keep that in mind, that our goal is to have at least 75 to 80% of our students at and above grade level. That's the long-term goal. But we have to break that up into reasonable goals. So you recall in my district goals that we're expecting that more than 50% of our students will be at and above grade level in math, and 60% in English language arts. So if you can keep that in mind when we review the results, then you know how much work that we're going to be doing. And it's really not to say that we're not working hard. I present these results indicating that everybody is working as hard as they can, and my recommendation is that we need to really assess the way we're working, because I do believe we need to work differently to get better results, because we all know if we continue with doing the same thing, we're going to get the same results, and our test results are not good enough. So that's how I'm going to preface our presentation. So if you could flip the next slide. So just we all know that we have 2,269 students, and so that's TK to 12, grade 12. 37% of our students are English learners, 63% are economically disadvantaged, and we have 10% of our students with disabilities. Thanks, Jolene. Okay, so this is the overall achievement for English language arts, grades 3 through 11. And I will tell you that what we really focus on for the district is 5th grade 8th grade and 11th grade because those are exit grades. So you want to add together level 3 and 4 because that's proficiency and above. So at 3rd grade, 43% of our students are at and above grade level, 47%, 56% at 5th grade in English language arts. So that's 56% of students are at and above grade level, and that needs to be higher than 60% for the next year. 6th grade, 34%, 7th grade, 53%, 8th grade, 52%. So again, that needs to be higher than 60%. And then 11th grade is 54%. Should be over 60%. The ultimate goal is 75 to 80%, but we're going to break it up into reasonable and achievable goals. So right now, for the next year, that's what we're shooting for, is the 60%. Okay, now we'll look at math. Next slide, math. Thanks. Okay, so this is overall achievement in math, 3rd through 11th grade. And again, we're looking at levels 3 and 4 because we're looking at grade level and above. 3rd grade is 49%, 4th grade is 48%, 5th grade is 40%. Okay, so 5th grade is the exit, and only 40% of our students are exiting 5th grade at and above grade level in math. Unacceptable. 6th grade is 26%, 7th grade is 30%, 8th grade is 44%. Again, 44% of our students are exiting 8th grade at and above grade level. Unacceptable. And then 11th grade is 42%. Unacceptable. So you'll recall that in LCAP, math is a particular area of focus. And so we have adopted a new math curriculum for the elementary that I do believe will make a difference. And we're reviewing the math program in the middle school and the high school, and we have to change what we're offering and how we're teaching math. Okay, thank you. Next slide. Yeah. So these are all of our students. Now, this is just looking at 5th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade because those are the critical grades. Now, this is looking at the last 3 years. What I want you to keep in mind, though, for this slide, these are not the same students necessarily. We will get to the value-added cohorts. But just to give you a perspective, you know, the good news is for 5th grade is that we're doing better this year than we did in the last 2 years. So that's good news. Not in 8th grade and not in 11th grade. Okay, so 11th grade you can say is probably pretty flat. Not a good sign, because if you're low, under 60, you should be doing better every year, okay? But however, it can depend on the students. So we're going to look at the value added because that will give you some more data. Then the next slide will show math. And again, you know, 5th grade, you're a little, you know, it looks like the program has made a difference because you're doing better, right? 8th grade, you're going in the right direction. And 11th grade, you're pretty static. Okay. So this is the exciting data. This is the most important data. What this means, these are the same students. And so what you want to see is you want to see value added, meaning that the fact that they're in our schools, every year you should see increased percentage of students at and above grade level. So what you should see is exactly what the 5th grade looks like. So 3 years ago, only 34% of those 5th graders were at and above grade level. But because they were in our school system, by the time they were in 5th grade, 57%. So that is great news. That's great news to celebrate. That gives us great hope that we can continue making that kind of progress. So we want 60 for the next year, but our real goal is 75 to 80. But you see that's value added. What is discouraging is 8th grade. There's no value added, essentially. Basically, you had 47% 3 years ago, you have 53%. So that's a concern. That's language arts. Then we look at math. And math is, the concerning because, again, there's not a whole lot of value added in math, although in the 8th grade there is. So 5th grade looks a little bit different. It's pretty flat. 3 years ago they're 38, they're at 41 now. That's not a big increase. But 8th grade, 3 years ago, only 31% were at grade level, and now it's 45. So that is encouraging.
Was 2015 the first year of Smarter Balance?
It was, yeah. Okay. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. So this is the overall achievement for English language learners. So we look at all of our students, and then we look at our 3 subgroups: English language learners, economically disadvantaged, and as well as special education. And that's where the achievement gaps are, and that's where we need to close the achievement gap. So not only overall our students are not making the kind of growth that we want them to see, our subgroups are not making the kind of progress that needs to happen. So it's like a two-prong approach. So for English language learners, you can see by the time they're leaving 5th grade, only 22% are at and above grade level. And then as it gets, and in 8th grade, it's only 10%. And then in 11th grade, there's nobody that's achieving at grade level for English language learners. So as they get older, so this is a really important point that I'd like to make. It's really important that we work really hard for ELD and reclassify almost all of our students by 8th grade. Because after 8th grade, the chances of students who are not reclassified being at grade level is very, very low. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's why we're focusing all of our professional learning on English language development at the lower grades and supporting our teachers. Does that you understand what the point I'm making?
Some would argue 5th grade.
And
I would I don't want to put. Yes, it really is by 5th grade you want to, but we're really challenged by that right now. So eventually we'll get to that goal. Yeah. That is going to be our goal. But right now it's 8th grade because we see that by 8th and 11th grade they're not at a grade level. Okay.
So Diana, these numbers of the zeros in the 7th, 8th, and 11th grade, is it because they haven't been exposed to CUSD as much as the lower grade? Is it because we're getting more English learners coming in? What do you think is?
Well, that's a question we're asking our colleagues and the staff at every school site. That's what the principals are asking. I would say what we really need to ask is, what are we doing to change the trajectory of our students? And the instruction that we're providing now and the opportunities for courses, is that really yielding the best results for students? And I would say that given the data, probably not at the rate of growth that we need to have. So we need to re-examine that. And that's what every school site is doing. That's why you're going to see it in their single school plan.
And the other question I have with this, you just made me realize that if we reclassify them when they take this test, are they no longer showing up as ELL? Are they showing up then as just the general student population?
Yes.
So
those who
it's kind of
making the cut. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
So those who are not making the cut, which means they probably need added help.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. However, you have to not look at this in isolation because our reclassification rate is very low.
Right.
So if our reclassification rate was like at 80%, and we had this data, you could say exactly your point. But our reclassification rate is at 27% at 8th grade. That's way too low. Way too low. But yes, that is a contributing factor. Then math is really challenging. So we have a lot of work to do in math because you're looking at 5th grade, 8% of our English learners are at and above grade level, 8th grade 4%, and then in 11th grade 8%. So we're challenged by that work. And then this is the cohort data, which is challenging because essentially there's not enough. You need accelerated progress. So the same kids have been here for 3 years. They've 3 years, and it was 3 years ago, 20% were at grade level and above. Now it's 23%. That's not enough acceleration.
Because as far as I understand, it's been around let's say 4 years since we have had low scores.
I'm sorry?
It's been we have had pretty low scores during the last 4 years, correct?
Well, there's been 3 years worth of
3
this
years
test.
of this data.
Yeah.
Because actually this 0%, it's pretty scary.
Yeah.
And then in math, again, you see in 5th and 8th grade, there's really not, value added, but at least in 11th grade, there was some increase. At least we had 8% versus 5%. So that's in the right direction. And then this is cohort data for English language arts. Again, not enough progress. And math, definitely not enough progress. Okay. So we did the same thing. The next slide shows we did the same analysis for economically disadvantaged students. And again, at 5th grade, it's 46% that are at and above grade level. 8th grade is, 45%. and 11th grade is 46%. So
And this is 63% of our
Yes,
students are
yes.
socioeconomically
Yes.
disadvantaged.
So,
Okay.
so we have work to do, and as you can
Majority of
see,
our students.
in math, it's even significantly more challenging. So again, 5th grade is what we're looking at, 26%. 8th grade is 38%, and 11th grade is 36%.
And some of these socioeconomic disadvantage are also English
Yes,
language
yes.
learners
There's-
and
yes.
special ed.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
but we don't have that disaggregated data, right?
No.
Okay.
No, they don't disaggregate it. So again, this is, when you look at this slide, this is about the last 3 years. So yes, 3 years ago, Rogelio, only 31% of your 5th graders and 32% of your 8th graders and 30% of your 11th graders that were economically disadvantaged students met or exceeded grade level. So yes, this has been 3 years of challenging data. Yes. And same with math. However, if you look at the cohort data, again, what's exciting is the 5th grade. 3 years ago, only 27% of your students were at grade level, but now 47% are at and above. So that's what you want to see. See that 27, 46, 47? That's really what you want to see. Now, that would be so exciting if next year it was 67. Do you see?
Yeah.
Okay, so, however, 8th grade is not as exciting. No. So we have to take a look at that. And math, but yet it reverses itself in math. Do you see how that changes? Now, in math, the 5th grade is not that exciting, but look at math in 8th grade. 24 in 3 years to 40, and those are the same kids. So that is, I mean, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
So you know what that tells me? We can do it. We just have to figure out what we need to be doing, what's the right thing to do to make it work. And then, as you can expect, the next data is students with disabilities. So these are going to be the lowest scores because these are students that struggle with special they're in special education, so already they're not at and above grade level. So you can imagine on state tests. So what we really need to look at is the cohort data. So you can just flip right over. If you could just go to the slides of cohort, because that's the most important data. Okay, again, 5th grade in English language arts, it's in the right direction, but not 8th grade. But you look at math, and no. So we know that in special ed, one of the major focus areas for our LCAP and for special ed is particularly in math, working with math and students with disabilities. So I think when you hear this data, I think it reminds you of all your LCAP goals that we've approved and our district goals that I talked about last time and that you're going to approve again. You can see how they match because our goals are to relentlessly focus on the reading, writing, and math, particularly for our subgroups, to increase the achievement level. And that's what our plans for improvement are. You're going to see the single plan for student achievement from the school sites in November. We've already looked at the LCAP, and then you've reviewed our district goals to improve student learning. So keeping in mind overall is that for math, we expect at least 50% or more of our students at and above grade level, and this is for all of our students, and for language arts, 60%. And that means in order for that to happen, this is at 5th and 8th and 11th grade, is that all those subgroups have to have a trajectory that looks like this, has to keep increasing. So
you said 60-50?
Yes. That's, I
Why
mean,
not 60-60?
because it's not reasonable, because we're under 30 and 40 right now. We have to have reasonable goals. So math is performing lower than English language arts. So if I said, today we're at 42% at and above grade level, and by the end of June it'll be 60%, that's going to be
challenging.
That's not going to be doable.
Well, it's not realistic.
It's not realistic. However, I just want to keep in mind that our real goal is 75 to 80% of our students in our district should be at and above grade level.
Probably within how many years? 3?
Well, I am going to tell you that I'm going to work really hard with our teams that it's within the next 3 to 5 years that should happen. That's our expectation.
So I know there's not a simple answer to this.
And
but
I know what you're going to ask.
Well, no, in your experience, how does this work? How does this work?
Okay. So this works with all the school sites as a team determining what their needs are going to be for instruction in the classroom. And then you're going to have to match the budget for that. So it is making huge changes in the way we're allocating our resources.
Okay.
But it really is about each school site, led by their principal and their leadership teams, they will all look at this data, and they will drill down right to their classrooms. So let me give you an example. Let's take third grade. Now, we're really focusing on fifth grade, but third grade, and there's 4 third grades at this one particular school. So the school site is looking at their third grade scores, and they actually look at each area that's been assessed. And in one class, teacher and students perform much higher than the other 3 classes. Well, then you will want to know what that teacher was doing and what the students were doing compared to what the other students were doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how you have to drill down, and you drill down by actual topic areas in the assessment.
Okay.
So we can get all that data. So it's really grade level teams determining what strategies that they need to change, what curriculum needs to look different, and what resources they need to have. And then it's up to the school site in their plan to say, this is what we're going to do as a school site. And by the way, board and superintendent, these are the resources we need. And so as we plan the budget for next year, we're going to have some big decisions about triage or value engineering, but it's really about priorities. So we're going to say things like, well, we really need to make sure that we're providing X amount of time on math instruction using this particular curriculum, providing this kind of intervention that's going to require 2 more teachers to do math with kids who are 10 in a class or 12. I'm just giving you an example. So we're going to have to say as a group, this is the kind of budget we need for that. And by the way, we're not spending money there. We're spending money over here doing X. So those are the kinds of decisions that we will ask grade levels and then school sites to make recommendations. And then the district administrative team will look at all of that and then make recommendations to you.
Right.
So that's kind of the process that,
Right.
that you change improvement for learning.
So I'm actually glad you brought that up, because just looking, if you go back to like the very first slide, the percentage of nearly met, is like 30%, 25%, 22%.
Yes.
And we have historically allocated our intervention for the not met, the
Yes.
level 1.
Yes.
And by just shifting some of that to the nearly met, we're going to have some of them bump up, which is going to help us meet our goal.
Yeah, you're so perceptive. That's exactly what the conversations that the teachers have at their grade level, because they can actually see for each topic area in each area that they're asking, the groups of questions around might be around fractions or something in math. They can see which groups of students did which and how close some students were, and so what they need. Then they'll make those recommendations about what we need. But you're absolutely right. That is the group that will that needs to be at grade level. By the way,
Yeah.
those all
And
nearly
they're
met.
close.
They
They're
need to be at
close.
and above grade
Yeah.
level. Yes.
And do you get to a point of using data tools or assessments, pre-assessments, so that you don't have to wait till the end of the year to
Here's the best news. This is what I love about working in this
Formative and
district.
summative, yeah.
None of this data does not surprise any of our teachers or any of our principals, because they're working with this data, not high stakes data, but they know exactly what their kids are doing based on grade level standards. They know, that's why they're providing so much intervention right now. We have wonderful intervention systems where students are being assessed, and where we adjust the instruction, we adjust the intervention teams. We're not waiting. They're constantly evaluating.
So you feel like there's good systems in place. Now it's kind of maybe coming in and putting the pieces together and pushing on certain areas and just basically supporting the structure that's already there and creating a new normal, like saying, okay, this is what we're now going to try and achieve, and having a really concerted effort school-wide to push towards a new goal. Is that?
Well, I think that's part of it. That's part of it. But I think there are some structures that are going to have to change.
Okay.
And that's what I'm inviting school sites. I'm asking the question. I say, this is what we have currently, and what is it going to take that we take all that nearly met students to meet grade level? What is that going to take? Grade, third grade, second grade at this particular school. And then we look at district-wide. Okay, Aliso third grade teachers say we need to do this, and Canalino third grade teachers say this, and they get together and say this is what we need for third grade, and then the principals say this is what we need for elementary, this is what we need for middle school, this is what we need for high school.
Great.
So, and that's what you're going to see in the single plans.
Great.
So, we're challenged by it, but we're excited about the work that we're going to be doing.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Diana.
Thank you.
I'll let the kids go.
Yeah, so I think, Jolene, would you mind forming a queue out there, and you could sign everybody's, all the students' sheets, and you guys can all go home and study?
Say a big thank you to Andy.
Make those test scores go up.
Unless you want to say.
If you guys could all go outside so that we can continue the meeting, that'd be great. And thanks for coming tonight, you guys.
for signing it.
You guys can stay if you want.
Yeah, you can. You don't have to leave. You can stay.
Especially if you have math homework, please do it tonight.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
You're on again.
I am. So let me just see where I'm at. Okay. I'm so glad the students were here to,
I am
to
too.
see the results.
Yeah.
A huge number. Probably 20 of them.
Okay. So
It's your report.
Yes,
now.
it is
Yeah.
my report. So again, I always like to begin with appreciation, and as Andy did, I'd also like to recognize Dave Winiger and Cindy Abbott for their steadfast leadership on the Measure U projects. We're so excited about the new facilities, and we're really looking forward to next spring and summer and the fall, and that our students and teachers will be in those new facilities. And they've done a great job. They work really closely with our school sites, so we're really pleased. So thank you, Dave and Cindy. Really appreciate it. Thank you. So I also wanted to keep you updated regarding the incident that we had last week at CHS. It was very challenging. We had 3 of our high school students arrested last Wednesday for posing photos on Snapchat while posing with a firearm, and a 3rd student had an empty pellet gun in his locker, gym locker. So the school authorities were alerted about the photos by a CHS parent, and I do want to commend the parent for alerting us. And actually, we had 2 incidences of the photos, so we had 2 parents alert us. And I'd like to encourage students and parents to continue making sure that they do notify school authorities for any suspicious activities. We also notified the Santa Barbara County Sheriff deputies immediately, and they conducted an investigation. It was during the investigation that we were able to locate the empty pellet gun that was found in that gym locker. All 3 students have been arrested and booked in juvenile hall and will be recommended for expulsion to the board. And that I just want to emphasize that at no time were there any actual credible threats to the school related to the photos. So at no time was any safety compromised. However, from every incident, you have some new learnings about how the next time that you'd like to proceed. So what I learned is that we do not have an emergency notification system other than, what do you call them? You call them phone trees on paper, I think. Yeah, paper phone trees. So we've been working with our IT department, and we have Parent Square as our information system to parents and staff. And there is now a module on Parent Square for alerts and notices. So we will be using an emergency notification system that will immediately text and email all parents and all staff members. And what I learned is, regardless of where the incident is, all staff in the whole district and all parents in the whole district will be notified, regardless of where the incident is occurred. So everybody will have the same information at the same time. And I will be working with the leadership team on Thursday, and typically the process is we will debrief the incident, we will debrief the response, and we're going to add some more steps to our school site emergency procedures. Because the emergency procedures at the school site were followed, but there's been some feedback about how we can improve it. So we'll have the whole discussion with all of our principals. We will add the improved sets of procedures to our school safety process for all school sites.
Great.
That will also include the emergency notification system. So with that, I'd like to alert all the parents and staff members that we will be sending out a test message. So it'll be a text and it'll be email, and you'll receive a test message on the notification system, because I want to make sure that we have everybody's cell phone numbers and email. Okay?
Great.
And then regarding student learning, so this is very exciting because this is directly related to what I was sharing originally, is that more than 20 Catalino students were recognized this Tuesday night for their achievement in English language development. They are reclassified as fluent English proficient students, so congratulations to them. And then also I had the wonderful opportunity to visit classrooms at the middle school, and I was really impressed with student learning in math. It was very exciting, as well as student writing in 6th grade. So I really enjoyed that visit. And then regarding parent engagement, we have a district parent advisory committee formed, which is comprising of the parent leaders of all the parent groups at each school site, as well as the ELAC leaders. And we met for the first time, and we discussed district goals, the district budget, and parent participation at school sites. And we'll meet on a monthly basis.
Right.
Which reminds me that I just want to alert everyone that next Tuesday night, October 17th. That's not Tuesday night. That is...
Next Tuesday?
Is it October 17th? It's
17th,
Tuesday night,
yeah.
yes. So we will be having our COPLA meeting at the high school, and then the next week we'll be having parent education, and those flyers will be sent out on Parent Square. And then regarding the Carpinteria Education Foundation, so each school principal submitted their CEF grants this week, and so I just wanted to share with you what the requests were because they're pretty exciting projects. So at the high school, they have a course, it's called TEAM, Technology, Entertainment, Arts, and Media, in which they collaborate with the environmental studies class, and they're researching the flora and fauna of the Carpinteria Valley, and they submitted requests for some technology tools. So that's very exciting. Those are microscopes. They are electronic microscopes. At the middle school, at Rincon and Foothill, they're involved in a grandparent project, so they're also requesting some technology tools for the grandparent project. At the middle school, they are providing robotics in the science class, and so they asked for some requested materials for robotics, so that's really exciting. You saw Aliso's presentation for the Exploration Center. Isn't that exciting? And so they asked for some more technology tools in the Exploration Center. And then in Catalino, they are implementing some new science lessons from the Next Generation Science Standards, and so they also have requested some specialized technology tools. So we're really grateful and appreciative of the support from CEF, and I applaud the teachers for their very exciting grants that will provide our students with some new opportunities. And then you heard the update for Measure U, so
Great.
Great, thank
we're
you.
all set. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Diana. Okay, we'll move on to D7, the second reading of the superintendent evaluation and goals for 17-18. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Can I get a second?
I second that.
All right. Any discussion?
I'm just really excited for this evaluation and for the lofty goals that Diana has set for herself, and really for our students who are going to be the ultimate beneficiaries of
Lofty
these.
but realistic.
Lofty but achievable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see our students achieve, right, at a higher rate.
That's the whole.
That's the whole.
That's the whole reason we're here.
Right.
Thank you.
Correct.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. No public comment. We'll move on to board policies. E1, Board Policy 5141.52, Student Suicide Prevention, second reading. Can I get a motion there?
I move to approve the Board Policy 5141.52, Student Suicide Prevention, second reading.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Educational services. We have conference requests. Can I get a motion to approve conference requests for $1,334.50 for transportation?
So moved.
I second that.
Discussion?
Yeah, my only discussion piece, and wanted to mention this to the board for feedback or thoughts, was it made me realize that there made me aware that maybe, or just wonder if as a board you were aware of whether or not there was a standardized policy regarding overnight field trips And if not, that might be an area. It'd be helpful if Mr. Cornejo or somebody was here. But
Okay, so
you know,
there is a policy about overnight field
Okay.
trips. This is not a field trip. This
Oh.
this is
it's just a trip.
This is a conference.
A conference.
This
Oh,
is
okay.
we're sending Michael
Students there.
Littlejohn. No, this is C1.
Oh,
right?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm on the wrong
Okay.
agenda item. So for this one, my only concern was the cost for the overnight or for the accommodations, because usually that's included when we approve something.
Right, and we don't know the accommodations yet because we're trying to find the best price in the safest place. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Not the safest price in the best place. Yeah, yes. So it's not to exceed. So that's a not to exceed.
Okay,
figure.
not to exceed. Yeah,
Not to exceed.
because I was just a little. Normally we get the
Yes.
accommodations along with that.
Mhm.
So, and it was just a different price than I had seen with like hotels.com when I looked up the price for that night. So
Yep.
just making sure that it's a affordable rate and all that for a conference.
Yeah, we will do that. Okay, so
Sorry,
the
I
field
got
trip.
confused.
Okay, well, so all
We
in
have to-
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, item C2 was a field trip request for the Junior Statement of America.
I move to approve.
All right,
Second.
discussion?
So this was the one where I was wondering or concerned that, because I know on my high school field trips there were students that got into trouble because of
Overnight.
yes, the overnight field trips, and so the request that was submitted was a kind of handwritten thing, and it just made me concerned a little that from a liability standpoint that we didn't have just a standard. Here's what happens on overnight trips for high school students.
So there's a pretty strict policy that the middle school and the high school follow.
Yes, and so I think what would be helpful is I'd be happy to share with you what the kids have to sign when they go on the trip.
Okay.
And the reason why we have 2 adults is we have 12 students, so the ratio is 1 to 6.
Right.
So that's a really good
Yeah,
ratio.
so just from experience, 'cause
Right.
I've been on several of these overnight trips with 6th graders and 8th graders and 5th graders. So a same-sex chaperone is with either the boys or the girls all night in the accommodation. In a hotel room, there's pretty clear delineation of where the boys and girls are sleeping. And there are chaperones. I mean, the ratios are pretty, I think on the what's that?
Oh, this is what was submitted with it, and it just says Casey and Kathy Roberts will be responsible for night supervision and then a curfew time, and then the chaperones will have access to the sleeping quarters. Then it says the students will have access to the TVs. They will not supervise the TV viewing, and it lists midnight as the time when everyone will have their lights out. So I didn't know if that was standard or if it should be standard, or if there were, and it just seemed a little ad hoc for me, and that made me concerned from a liability standpoint.
Oh, you mean like the midnight?
Oh, you can take a look. You're welcome. This was part of the
So
agenda.
both Gerardo and I approve
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
And I'm confident that it's exactly what we expect.
Okay.
I have no concerns
And
about it.
But there was, I mean, just to maybe assuage some of your concerns, you know, the every trip I've ever been on and that Kathy's been on has been really well supervised by teachers. I mean, just Camp El Chorro up in San Luis that the 6th
Right.
graders go on. The teachers are out all night patrolling, making sure
Well,
that
and
there's
that
no crossover.
I think that
between the-
contract is a new development. I don't remember.
That's what the older
I don't
kid-
remember.
That's what the high school.
The high school kids,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And that's what it was, a high school field trip,
Yeah.
which is the time when my
And you got to
classmates.
remember, I mean, I'm, from my opinion, I mean, you got to start giving them a little bit more responsibility because they are becoming young adults. But you do have to hold them accountable.
right. And this doesn't reflect, by the way, on the field trip or the request or anything like that. It was just a logistical thing of like, this doesn't feel, as a parent of a future high school student, this doesn't make me feel super secure personally. But knowing that there's contracts and other things in place. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So we'll move on to business operations facility and warrants. We're being asked to approve the period of September 16th through the 29th
Oh.
of September. this year in the amount of $891,302.40.
Were we going to go back to these ones yet, or is that after the
That's
warrants?
Yeah, we're gonna go
After
back,
the
yeah.
warrants. Okay, sorry.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All-
Yeah,
Oh,
I do have some questions actually about this one. If you go to the end of the warrant, the numbers don't add up for the check count.
Yes. And we reviewed it, and the person who puts it together is Denise Cora. And so when this is her from the county, this is her document. So we review it, and when there's errors in the printing, we submit what's called a fix. So she's aware of it, and she's working on it. So she will have the document fixed, but the information about the checks is accurate.
Okay, because there's two, I think, fairly outstanding issues, which is that the number of checks issued doesn't match with the description here, the fund summary.
Yes, we're aware of that.
Okay, and then the other piece is that there's 34 checks that don't seem to be accounted for
Right.
here on page 3. It skips 34 numbers.
Right, so Denise, in speaking with Denise, you're welcome to call her, and she'll explain it to you. But this is the county document.
Okay,
And so what happens is, this happens, not every time, but it's not unusual it happens. And so what our system is once we review it and notice the error, we send in what's called a fixed ticket. And it's a printing error, because they're doing it for all the districts. And so their printer jams or skips or something, and simply they send it out. So she knows, she's aware of it, and she said if there was any issue, give her a call.
Okay, so anyone in the community that's concerned should call and ask about the
Denise
34.
Cora. Yeah,
Ask
absolutely.
about the 34 checks that
Sure.
were issued
Yeah.
that are not accounted for.
Yeah,
Okay.
she'll explain it.
I think it's going to be hard for me tonight to approve a warrant with so much missing information.
Okay, well,
okay.
yeah.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right.
Or nay.
Okay. Move on to gifts, grants, and donations. Board is being asked to accept the following 50 iPad Touches valued at $10,000 from David and Rachel Heyman to Karen Parker and Krista Musinich's classrooms at Canalino.
I move to accept, and wow, thanks.
You get a second?
A second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much to the Haymans. Okay, item C7 was Union Bank Public Entity Resolution. The district account was established as a nonprofit 501c3 when in fact the district should be a public entity or government status entity. It's just to update the status. So, can I get a motion there?
Move to approve the resolution.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I just needed a little more information about this.
Sure. So the bank made a mistake and labeled us as a nonprofit 501c3, and we said we're not. We're a school district, and it took months for them to understand that.
So
in
when
fact,
did it
we're a school
happen?
district. Was it last year?
Decades ago.
Oh.
Yeah, decades ago, evidently.
In changing signature cards, they required all of our new nonprofit documents, which we don't have. So this has been a year-long process to get Union Bank's corporate to change our status.
Because it's a long time without anyone catching it.
And are there any tax ramifications for basically holding money in an account that's marked as a nonprofit and reporting it?
District doesn't pay taxes.
Well, there you go. So there are no tax ramifications. Well, we would be responsible for payroll taxes.
Well, we pay those, but so do
Yeah.
nonprofits.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But that we do pay taxes.
Well, we don't pay
No.
income taxes.
Right.
As a district.
Right. I'm just asking.
Yep. Okay.
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 Well, I'm glad it was caught and that it's being changed.
Oh yeah,
so.
this is a resolution. Oh, it's not. Okay. All right. So we don't need. Do we need to? Nothing. Okay. Item C8.
You need to
We
vote.
do need to
We do
vote.
need to vote. Okay.
Because
Oh,
we
okay.
pulled it from the
All
consent
right.
agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Item C8, school facility consultant professional consulting services agreement with for Measure U. Well, anyhow, can I get a motion on C8?
Yeah, I so moved.
Second.
Discussion?
So this is basically what you were talking about, the application process for the state funds. Yes.
Yeah.
Essentially, if you want to apply for state funds, you have to have a consultant. If you don't have a consultant, you're not going to get the funds.
We don't know what you're doing.
Well, yeah, and you're not going to get the funds.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
just the bottom line.
They know the system, correct?
Yeah.
Pardon
Well,
me?
the question, I guess the question that I just wanted answers for, just to hear a little bit more information about, was based on the work. You know, I went through the work that that we're asking them to do in the contract, and then based on the form that they're, like, a piece of their work is the form that they're filling out. I just was kind of surprised by the amount of $50,000 for that level of work. It just, I mean, again, I probably know nothing and seem a fool, but it just seemed, is there a way, like, is there a chance that it would cost less if they did, or is it one of those contracts where we're saying up to $50,000?
Right.
Up to $50,000?
As billed.
Right.
Right.
Not
So-
to exceed.
Not to exceed.
Yep.
Okay. Because it,
We estimated what it could cost this year and possibly into next year, but this is as billed. So we aren't receiving a bill every month. We're receiving a bill as they do the work.
okay.
And remember, this is all budgeted into the the Measure U budget.
Well, and I was kind of a little bit, but it's not. I mean, $50,000, I know it's hard. It's easy for us to lose track of the numbers, but it's like, it's still adding up. It's still a lot of money, and it's still money that could go directly to a project rather than towards a administrative person filling out forms, which is essentially
Not if we didn't get the money, though.
No, but they're conducting, like, to my understanding, it's like they're doing a survey of where there's growth areas. But anyways, it's all just new information.
Yeah, and you know, it's frustrating, but I can tell you, if you don't have a consultant, you will not get the funds. It's just, you know, it doesn't matter what state you're in. Every state, every building project, we had to hire a consultant to get our state funds. So it's the same in the east, it's the same in the west.
I
So-
can understand, you know, it is a lot of money, Maureen, but $50,000, $13 million. I mean, it's
No, I understand, but I also feel like we're now rushing. I'm a little confused about why we're like rushing when we've known about this bond for so long, and could have potentially.
we haven't.
We're
No,
rushing
the matching money didn't
access
get
the state
approved
money.
until.
No, but there was
last-
people who already had their money in the queue before the thing was even
No,
approved
no.
last fall.
There were projects that were already designed and approved by the Department of State Architect.
Right, I know ours
prior-
weren't. I know ours weren't. Right.
No, ours weren't even.
Right.
We didn't have anything.
Right,
done.
but we've known about, like, when was the bond approved?
That
So
doesn't-
since
that-
the bond was approved, we
Years ago.
knew that we were going to have to. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've had since last October when the state bond measure passed.
But
To-
we can't apply for the money till DSA has approved the plan.
Right, but we could have had the application ready like other people have.
No,
No.
you
You're
can't.
conflating two things.
Well, no, because some of the I mean, maybe I'm totally wrong, but based on what I read of the work
I
that they're
think this
supposed
would
to
be a really
be
good
doing.
conversation to have with
Sure,
maybe
fine,
Dave and
yeah.
Cindy and Diana.
Sure.
You know, because there's, I mean, it sounds like you really want to get in the weeds here, which is good, but I don't necessarily know that this is the proper forum for that.
No, I think my concern is just as a public citizen who's been on a board for less than a year, I'm still hyper conscious of these numbers in a way that perhaps, you know, as a board member, you're not. Do you know what I mean? And 90 million, I'm still very conscious of the fact that people on the street, the thing they ask me about is Measure U. What's happening with Measure U? What's going on? That's a lot of money. And so I don't ever want to be at the place where I take for granted
I'd
where
love
this
to
money.
talk to these people because I love talking Measure U and explaining it to people but I never get asked by anybody, you know, about.
We have different friends and different communities, clearly. So
Okay, so I think we can.
All
I
right,
think
yeah,
you
I
have
think
your
we-
answer,
I
and
think
so
we
I
can
think we
move
can
on.
move on. You need to vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Are you opposed?
I'm opposed.
All right. Okay, C9, Infinity Communications and Consulting. master agreement for professional services. Can I get a motion there?
So moved.
And just my question about this was Maureen, was the E-rate the thing that that we had all those unexpected costs related to? No. It was is the E-rate the thing having to do with the explain the E-rate a little bit if you could.
Go ahead.
So E-rate are discounts that we get through the federal government for infrastructure, internet, and it used to cover phones, cell phones, and all communications. Over the past couple of years, E-rate has stopped funding components of that infrastructure, and so those costs have been increasing to the general fund because those discounts are expiring. Infinity is the company that actually goes out and applies for that E-rate money, and it's all a bid process. It's kind of like school facilities consultants on the E-rate side. Without their expertise, it's a very complex program, and it takes a lot to prepare the applications to get the discounts. But this is just routine.
So where did the disconnect happen last year in our, like, what we had budgeted for the E-rate or not the E-rate, but what we had budgeted for our, didn't you say that one of the big unexpected things with our budget was the cost of our, what are they called?
We were losing some of the
Utilities.
discounts for our, for Cox.
Right. And that was a huge unexpected expenditure?
Yes, because, well, it wasn't unexpected. We just didn't know how much it was going to be.
So is
The
that
difference?
So they weren't involved with
No.
With that unknowing.
No. We don't know until the discounts expire, and they're usually a year or two behind in those discount rates. So we knew it was expiring. We knew it was going to cost more, but we didn't have a dollar value.
And they don't keep you in the loop in terms of, hey, keep your heads up. We're thinking we're not going to be getting this. Is there I guess what I'm asking is everyone knows we don't want to have unexpected costs like that again this year. And if these people at all contributed to our not having an effective understanding of our discounts that we were eligible for, I vote that I think we should find another provider or servicer. There's surely other people that could service these
Not many.
discounts for us.
Not many. Not only that is sometimes you have unused credits that extend a little longer than the expiration date. It's very complicated. It's not a very here's your discount and here's your amount. It's on usage. It's on a lot of things.
So you're confident that this provider will help us stay in the loop and not have those unexpected cost increases this year?
This provider has maximized every single discount we can get from E-rate possible.
In a way that's superior to others?
I think so.
Okay. That's just all. I just wanted to get some clarity on that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Measure U. Item H1 is approval of change order number 1 for interim housing at Catalino. Multiple housings. Oh, so this is family school in Catalino. Okay, that's why it's multiple campuses. Change order is in the amount of $21,011. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve.
Any discussion?
Just what happened?
The change order addressed the underground utilities. We had utilities that we found, utilities that were shown on old drawings that weren't actually there in the locations. And we also added value to the site by putting in fiber optics all the way out to the new learning center, which is a big part of it.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, item H2, approval of change order number 1 for the grease interceptor replacement, Catalino and the middle school. The amount is $12,130, paid for with Measure U.
Move to approve.
Any discussion?
Again, if you could just give a little clarity about, I remember seeing the initial bid for this and thinking it was very low for a grease trap replacement.
Well, these are again all unforeseen conditions. We found the sewer located about 25 feet from where it was shown on the drawings and about 8 to 10 feet in depth. We also had to go into the building and replace the floor sink because it was rotted out. We didn't know that until we started the demolition and the tie-in to the existing grease traps. Over at the middle school, we found a gas line that was integrated with the slab. They're normally, the code requires them to be a minimum of 18 inches below grade, and this was integrated right with the concrete. So when we cut the concrete to access the grease trap, the old grease trap, and remove it, we cut right through the gas line. So we had to replace the gas line. We had to shut down the gas and replace it.
That sounds very scary.
Fortuitous you had water going when you were cutting your concrete.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
No sparks.
Yeah. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item H3 is Measure U expenditure reports as of September 30th, 2017.
Do we have to approve those?
No, they were just for information.
information.
Okay. That was, well, we already saw those.
Yes.
All right.
We're all
yeah.
set.
Okay. Board communications. Rogelio.
Oh, yes, I just want to say that I would like to see the district budget used wisely, that we do not overspend. It looks like the district has been overspending money for the last 3 or 4 years. I would like to have control of that. And also I would like to see students improve on math and English scores. That's the main goal. And also regarding the Measure U, I have also heard from people saying that it's money that they are paying. Basically, what's happening is that homeowners are passing, a lot of these homeowners are passing this assessment to tenants. That's why a small condo, $2,000 a month, 3-bedroom, $2,800 a month. On top of, because I know a lot of homeowners, and I'm a real estate agent, so I know what's going on. I just lost a deal because of that. Someone that asked me, well, what about the assessments? Well, it's the association and plus this. Well, okay, this assessment is going to last probably a few months. No, it's for a long time. So, okay, forget it. So that's basically, I would call that, that's probably driving some people to other cities, Ventura, Oxnard. And it's just that's why Measure U unit has to be used in a wise way, and that's all I have to say.
Yeah, so both you and Maureen, if you have anybody you know that has questions about Measure U,
well,
send them my way because I'm happy to talk to them.
I mean,
about it.
there's.
And
I mean,
have a pretty good grasp of Measure U.
Well, it depends. It depends because you know what I do lately every day for the last month. I go to McDonald's from 8 when I drop my daughter to school. I go straight to McDonald's. My sister works there, and I ask for a coffee, and then another one, and I leave until 11:30 a.m. every day. You can see me there every day. And that's when people, I mean, without even asking, they recognize me and they talk to me. So that's I mean, and we're talking about people that probably, a lot of these people are probably making the minimum.
Yeah.
The minimum. And how can a family, let's say, it depends. Measure U, the assessment. It depends on the property, on the value of the property. And when the homeowner passes that assessment to the renter, that's probably looking for an extra buck, and then all of a sudden, he or she, the tenant gets hit with, let's say, well, you have to pay $100 a month. more. So how can I explain that?
Well, they're all going to benefit from the services
Yeah.
that the school
Well,
is going to be providing.
there's a lot of them say, well, I don't have any children in the district. There's a lot of people that believe on the improvements, and some that do not. I mean, that's why we are not that's why we don't think the same way.
68% did.
Well, no, I think it's, no, I do. It was it was a lot closer than that. We can check on that. It wasn't 68.
It was
at
well
the,
over
at
60%.
the most, at the most, I would say it's 60. You know, what comes to my mind is 58%.
No.
Okay, we can check on that, but still,
it was incredibly high for a bond measure.
Yeah, but
I
but
think
still,
but this is
I mean,
we're a little off topic
I mean,
here.
yeah,
so,
correct.
so-
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah,
I mean-
no. We really shouldn't
I mean,
be having a discussion
yeah,
about
sure.
this.
I mean, because this is basically, I mean, you represent part of the community, part of the community, part of the community. Okay.
No, we all represent the entire community.
Well,
We're
the
not-
entire,
we're not-
but
yeah.
like for example, Latinos, they approach me. Why? Well, like with the prohibition to lunch. Well, what happened? I'm paying $3.50 per day. You told me that it was going to be free. What happened? Okay. Well, what happened with I'm getting paid $100 more per rent? What happened?
But
That's,
we
you know,
don't have control over
No, I mean-
landlords setting
No,
rent.
no. Well, but
Yeah.
well, I understand. We are on this, all of us together. But out there, people do not think alike. I mean, that's why there's you call disadvantaged students, disadvantaged families. People, I mean, there's people who, you tell them you're going to pay $20 more per rent. Okay, they say, well, how can I do that? I'm going to give you an example. One example, a personal example. Okay, I have a sister. She works 8 hours per day, regular job. Then another 6 at McDonald's. That's 14 hours. She's by herself, one child, paying $2,000 a month plus all the other expenses. That's just one example. I would like that example. There's a lot. That's something that I just wanted to bring it up, and so that's why when it comes to money, all I am asking is that it's spent wisely, thinking about everybody.
Thanks, Rogelio.
Thank you.
Jacqueline?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Principal Pursoon and her staff and all the teachers at Catalino and Family School. We had a fantastic tour of both sites. It was so exciting to see what's going on in the classroom with the students being engaged and teachers just doing their stuff. It's just so neat to see. I want to take this opportunity to also thank our fearless leader here, Diana. You took on a lot as superintendent of after many years of transition that we've been through, and you have just shown us such great leadership. But I think the thing that I appreciate most about you is your steadfast focus on our students and students learning. And I so much appreciate the goals that you have set for the school and the priority being students' learning and achievement. So thank you so much.
Maureen?
Two things. I have two things that I've been thinking about. The first is my City College water bottle, which is the fact that I'm a student right now. I'm taking Spanish at City College. I had midterms last week, and it was I'm taking Spanish so that I can sort of be on par with my daughter's Spanish language skills at the DLI program. So it's really, really
That's great of you.
yeah, it's incredible to be a student while your daughter's a student, and she actually helped me get up some points on my.
She's going to pass you up.
No, she already has, because she taught me the word for grape, which is uva,
Yeah.
because she's learning phonetics. She's learning Spanish phonetically, just like you do in any kindergarten class. But so she taught me uva, and uva was on the test. It was a vocab word. So, anyways, it's hard to be a student. It's hard to sit still and be talked to. It's hard to learn things that you don't understand. It's hard to study for tests. It's hard to make note cards, and I love it. But I also I have deeper empathy for all our students out there. And with these tests, I mean, I think all of us were sort of, how can you help but be disheartened when you look at these numbers? And I think we need moving forward. We want to be looking forward, and we want to think, how can our students achieve at even higher levels? Because we have great teachers, and we have great parents, and we have great students. I think we've just lacked a clear and united goal as a collective community. Not that we didn't want our students to achieve, but we just needed concrete data to work towards. And we will. And I think we're going to do great. And I think it was, for me, really interesting to look at the KSEP scores and the student scores alongside the Measure U update. And I guess my worst case scenario is that we would have this beautiful, new, gorgeous campus, which is the district, and not have our achievement levels. So hopefully, it's like everything is just like rising. Like our campuses are improving, and our scores are going to keep improving. And I'm a student. We're all students. We want to do better. We want to learn, and we want to improve. And I think we just need good teachers and good guidance on how we can do that. And I also know, in terms of Carpinteria, the reason the bond measure passed is because Carpinterians love to unite behind a positive collective vision. It's why we bought the Bluffs. And we are a very tight-knit, optimistic group. So I think that, everyone who's listening, and you guys, let's all tell our neighbors, hey, we're going to be pushing on our students to achieve higher goals, and we're going to do it. Because I know that Carpinterians and families will rally behind the positivity of that lofty goal. I know that we're going to be able to do it. So thank you.
So I just want to echo what Jacqueline said. I was so impressed with Catalino and Family School. Every single room we walked into, the environment was lovely. The kids were all engaged and well behaved. And I don't know if it was because we were there, but
I think
it looked
was
like
just
a
the way
norm. Yeah, it just was so exciting, and I was
Encouraging,
very encouraged. I also wanted to congratulate all of the schools who participated in the Avocado Festival. It was crowded, hot, but I walked by the line at the guacamole and chips where the cheerleaders sell. It was literally like halfway down the block. And so I'm sure they were very happy with their sales. And I saw lots of FFA representation in the tents, and we were well represented. So good job.
Yeah, great. All right. I don't have anything. You guys have covered it all. Okay, thank you. I think we're nothing for the calendar, so we're adjourned. Thanks.